Gene Hackman slowly faded into loneliness, living in silence with no explanations, as if the golden years of Hollywood were a distant memory for him. Both he and Betsy chose to distance themselves from all the noise, seeking a peaceful life in Santa Fe, but the price they paid may not have been just isolation. Betsy suffered from a rare illness, one that no one truly understood, and information related to her was sealed in a strange way. Why were the important documents about her kept hidden like that? The truth may be as clear as the official statements say, or it may go beyond anything we've ever imagined. The question remains, who has hidden the important details? Is everything just a series of random events? Or is there a deeper, more deliberate story behind it? This remains only a hypothesis, a piece of a larger, unfinished puzzle. If you're curious about the mysteries surrounding the deaths of Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa, don't forget to like, share the video so your friends and others can know about it. Be sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any upcoming exciting videos. Now, let's dive in and explore the mysterious stories behind the death of this Hollywood star. Santa Fe, New Mexico, an ancient town where art and culture blend with the rugged charm of the desert. On February 26, 2025, serenity was shattered when an emergency call came into the Santa Fe Police Department. Two heating system technicians, James O'Reilly and Marcus Vega, were the first to unexpectedly arrive at the scene. They had been called to inspect the Hackman family's heater early that morning, but no one answered the door when they knocked. They rang the bell several times, but the house remained eerily silent. The front door was unlocked. There were no signs of forced entry, and no sounds came from inside. The state police quickly launched an investigation. Initially, officials concluded that both had passed away naturally. The early reports stated that Betsy died on February 11th, with the cause being Hirsch's lung syndrome, a rare and dangerous disease caused by rodents, which makes it difficult for the patient to breathe. Gene, who was battling late-stage Alzheimer's, was believed to not recognize that his wife had passed and lived in the house for 2 weeks, until his heart stopped on February 26th. Everything seemed fine until Dr. Josiah Child, Hackman's doctor, broke his silence. Dr. Child had cared for Gene Hackman for many years and was shocked by the passing of both. One detail pointed to him. Betsy had called his clinic on February 12th, a day after she was said to have passed. "I remember that call very clearly," Dr. Child recalled. Betsy called that morning to schedule an appointment for Gene. She was very concerned about his health and mentioned his recent chest pain. Betsy never showed up for her appointment on the afternoon of February 12th, didn't cancel, and no one knows why she didn't appear. What happened between that morning and afternoon? After Dr. Child spoke, the Santa Fe police had to revisit the case. The initial coroner's report stated Betsy was infected with Hirsch's, but upon re-examination, there was no evidence that she had this disease in her final days. So what really happened to Betsy? Is there an undisclosed cause? Another strange occurrence. No signs of disturbance or break-in. Everything in the house remained normal. No items were missing, no signs of an attack. But if Gene lived there for 2 weeks without knowing about Betsy's absence, how did he manage? There were no food orders placed between February 11th and 26th, no signs that anyone cared for Gene. So, did someone visit during this time? In the end, the truth still seems to be hidden in the shadows. If Betsy called on February 12th, while she had already passed away on the 11th, everything becomes even more mysterious. The answer seems locked in unsolved riddles, with strange signs that remain unexplained. What really happened in Betsy's final days? Is there a secret being concealed beneath the quiet surface of Hackman's life? Or is this a clever game someone wants to keep hidden? This story is just beginning, and each new clue only adds to the confusion, leading the investigation into an endless dead end. The unspoken things will continue to haunt, opening up a bigger mystery. An empty conversation could happen. Betsy Arakawa couldn't have called on February 12th, yet she did. The call started as a routine conversation but turned into an inexplicable puzzle. How could someone be declared gone on February 11th, yet still have a conversation, schedule an appointment, and make plans the very next morning? Dr. Josiah Child recalled every detail of that call. Betsy's voice was steady, with no signs of a serious illness. She spoke about Gene Hackman's health, his recent restlessness, and even mentioned feeling a bit tired, but nothing alarming. That was not the tone of someone fading quickly. A few hours later, she completely disappeared, and no one ever saw Betsy Arakawa again. Santa Fe is a close-knit town where everyone knows each other. A figure like Gene Hackman and his wife couldn't have just slipped away after the call on the morning of February 12th. Betsy was no longer around. She didn't show up for her appointment, didn't answer any calls afterward, didn't appear on the clinic's cameras, or leave any trace suggesting she left the house. This completely contradicts the police statement that Betsy went missing on February 11th. So, if she really left, who made the call on the 12th? Coroner reports were once rock-solid science, but when a doctor had spoken to Betsy the following day and stepped up to dispute them, things definitely became uncertain. The strange timeline of February 11th. The police reported that Betsy passed away due to virus-induced lung syndrome. On the morning of February 12th, Betsy called to schedule an appointment. Her voice was calm, with no signs of illness. By the afternoon of February 12th, she missed her appointment and cut off all contact. On February 26th, Gene Hackman was found missing at home. This is a rub-down medicine, an antiviral medication that doesn't take effect immediately. It develops in its final stages, causing exhaustion, clear-labored breathing, and struggling with speed, but Betsy showed none of these symptoms. Dr. Josiah Child insisted that she spoke like someone completely healthy, with no cough, no shortness of breath, and no signs of imminent death. I can't believe she just disappeared a few hours later. This points to three chilling theories. A serious forensic mistake where Betsy might have actually passed after February 12th, not on the 11th as claimed. Someone may have impersonated her, mimicking Betsy's voice to create a false trail. Betsy did make the call that morning, but something terrible must have happened immediately after. The last clue about Betsy is the surveillance footage from the pharmacy on February 11th. She looked fine. Not panicked, not sick. She walked in, bought supplements, paid, and left. That was the last time anyone saw her alive. There is no footage of her on February 12th. It means that if Betsy left on February 11th, then how could Dr. Child have spoken with her on the 12th? If she lived until February 12th, what happened that afternoon? There could be a logical answer, but the more you dig, the more it becomes unclear. Betsy couldn't have called on February 12th, but she did. She scheduled an appointment but never showed up. She had no signs of severe illness. Yet the coroner's report stated she died from a fatal disease. The police missed something. Is someone hiding the truth? Or worse, did someone make Betsy disappear after the call? This is like an unsolved puzzle growing more complex every day. The last day Betsy was seen was on February 11th. Betsy Arakawa appeared for the last time in a surveillance clip at a small pharmacy in Santa Fe. After that, she vanished. No messages, no emails, no calls, except for one strange sighting on the morning of February 12th from a healthy woman buying medicine, disappearing completely within less than 24 hours. What really happened? The footage from the pharmacy camera is the last piece of evidence of Betsy Arakawa's existence. In it, she's wearing a dark coat and a light-colored scarf, entering at 3:45 p.m. She moves calmly, with no signs of serious illness. Betsy picked up supplements and vitamins, paid with her card, and left without panicking, without any company, no one following her. That moment felt normal, but it was the final piece before everything turned mysterious. After leaving the pharmacy, no one saw her again. 3 theories could explain this sudden disappearance. Each theory raises difficult questions. Betsy passed away on the night of February 11th, but who made the call on the 12th? If the police are correct, and Betsy left on the evening of February 11th from Hyras, that would make the call on February 12th impossible. Dr. Josiah Child swore that he spoke with her the following morning. Her voice was calm, no labored breathing, no signs of illness. If she truly passed away on the 11th, then who made the call the next day? Betsy lived until February 12th, but where did she go afterward? If the call on February 12th is real, it flips the entire issue. What happened to her? She didn't show up for her appointment, didn't return home, and didn't appear on any other cameras. A grown woman, well known in a small town, couldn't just disappear without a trace. If someone took Betsy, why were there no witnesses? Someone staged all of this, but why? What if the police got the date of her death wrong? It could be a disappearance disguised as a departure. Something is being hidden. Was a plan set in motion beforehand, or is it just an unimaginable coincidence? The main pulse of the timeline. February 11th at 3:45 p.m., Betsy is seen at the pharmacy, looking fine. On the night of February 11th, the official report states she passed away. On the morning of February 12th, Betsy called to schedule an appointment. By the afternoon of February 12th, she missed her appointment, and from that point on, she became unreachable. On February 26th, Gene Hackman was found having passed away at home. A 14-day gap remained empty, with no one knowing what had happened. No bank accounts were touched, no phone activity, no information recorded. Could a woman erase herself for 2 weeks without leaving a trace? No, the biggest question isn't just for Betsy, but also for Gene Hackman. If you're interested and want to learn more about the mysterious death of Gene Hackman and his wife, leave a comment with the number 1. Otherwise, leave a comment with the number 0. Now, let's continue with this intriguing story. He lived in that house for 14 days after Betsy disappeared. The police say Alzheimer's made him unaware of her absence, but that's hard to accept. How could a man who had been married for decades not remember his wife, not realize her absence for 2 weeks? If Betsy left on February 11th, who did Gene share the house with during those 14 days? If she only disappeared on the 12th, what did he see? Most importantly, did Gene Hackman know something we don't? Could this be an unusual stroke of luck, or something more sinister? The truth is, this is not simple. Betsy couldn't have both left on February 11th and called on February 12th. If she lived until the 12th, what happened afterward? If someone made her disappear, they left no trace. This isn't just a disappearance, it's not just a forensic slip, but a trail full of holes. The deeper you dig, the more chilling it gets. Did the police really miss something big, or is someone burying the truth? We still don't have the answer. Gene Hackman shared many decades with his wife, yet officially, reports say he didn't notice Betsy had left this world 2 weeks before he followed. The police attribute this to Alzheimer's, a decline in awareness due to her absence. But the more you think about it, the harder it becomes to understand. How could a man live with his wife in the same house for 14 days without feeling anything, without missing her? How could a once sharp actor like Gene have no reaction to the absence of his closest companion? More urgently, if Betsy really had Hirus, a virus-spreading breath, why wasn't Hackman infected? Officially, Betsy Arakawa passed away on February 11th from pneumonia, a pestilence spread through rodent waste, thriving in cramped spaces like a home. But a glaring hole remains. Why wasn't Gene Hackman infected? He lived with Betsy, sharing the same space, the same air, and everything under the same roof. If Hirus was the culprit, if the virus took her life, then Gene must have been prepared for that. But the problem is, there's no evidence showing that Hackman experienced symptoms like a cough, a fever, or breath smelling of the virus-killing drug, something this virus could cause. Moreover, there are no signs recorded of his health issues, nor did he seek help for lung problems. This raises a big question. Why would the virus target Betsy and not affect Gene when they were living in the same space? Did the illness truly exist, or was it just a cover, a story created to hide something else, something yet to be revealed? This question remains unanswered, and with each passing day, doubt only grows. If Gene avoided Hirus, he could have been separated from Betsy while she was ill. It sounds far-fetched, but consider what happened. Betsy disappeared after February 11th, unable to be reached after her call on February 12th. Hackman survived for 2 weeks, and according to the police, he was unaware of her loss. Twice, Hackman didn't recognize it due to his Alzheimer's, but later he needed stable care. However, no help or caregivers were recorded as assisting him during those 2 weeks. Hackman had been hidden from the truth. Someone has concealed Betsy's fate, hidden what happened. If so, who carried this out? Did someone come in to manage Hackman? Did they distort what he knew? Did he fabricate a false story about Betsy? If so, at the scene, the police found no signs of external interference. The house remained intact except for one strange detail. There were no records showing that Hackman had made contact during those 2 weeks. No calls to the hospital or doctor. No visitors reported. No signs of him seeking help. That's unusual, even for Alzheimer's. Hackman was a man, a devoted husband to Betsy for many years. He couldn't have missed it when she suddenly disappeared. So why was there no reaction? What stopped him as Betsy's departure grew more and more mysterious? The final question remains. What hidden truth lies behind his silence? And what role does it play in this growing enigma? The more the investigation unfolds, the deeper the questions become, leaving even more doubt than before. Time is ticking, and the answers remain elusive. After Dr. Child's story was published in the press, whispers suggested that he had received a warning. A friend had pointed out to him what he had said. A clinic employee mentioned that he abruptly quit after the records of the call on February 12th disappeared from the clinic's system. Was someone silencing him? If so, what made them fearful before he disappeared? Dr. Child said one last thing to a trusted reporter. "You don't understand. If Betsy called me on February 12th, then everything they told you is a lie. This is no longer simple. If Dr. Child is on Betsy's side, manipulated by someone, why is his silence a sign that he knows too much? The most important question is, if someone is burying the truth, how far will they go to protect it? On February 26th, Gene Hackman passed away at his home, and the police called it a natural death, stating that he passed peacefully, unaware of his wife's passing before him. A story that seems neat but is riddled with contradictions. If Betsy Arakawa didn't pass on February 11th, then who decided that she had to disappear at that time? And if Hackman truly passed away on February 26th, why are there so many unresolved details? The missing pieces, the unanswered questions, make this story more complex than ever. The lack of records and the questions left unanswered only add to the confusion. Could this be a clever game to conceal something, or just a tragic accident? Either way, everything remains in the dark, and the truth feels ever elusive. After the call on February 12th spread, the police suddenly adjusted the case. The initial report locked in Betsy's death on February 11th, but as questions about Dr. Child's call piled up, they changed. It's possible Betsy passed away later than the recorded time, maybe a mix-up with the records. Perhaps a checkup was mishandled, vague speculation with no solid evidence to determine what actually happened. But if the police were wrong about Betsy's timeline, could they be wrong about Hackman as well? Gene Hackman's death occurred 15 days after Betsy's case was exposed, with no major illness beforehand, no signs of sudden death, and no one witnessed his last breath. Did Hackman truly remember his wife? Or was he forbidden from speaking? If Hackman was completely cut off, who was in charge of everything around him? The biggest question of all, did he pass away naturally, or was this part of a larger plan? The doubts surrounding the deaths of Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa grow even more tangled. The first person said Betsy left on February 11th. If she lived until the 12th, who distorted the timeline of the investigation and why? Why wasn't Hackman's health checked before his passing? A man with Alzheimer's who was healthy enough passed away 2 weeks after his wife's story was turned upside down. The key to the wide opportunity, the clue disappears on February 12th. The investigation file is canceled. Betsy's medical records are no longer public. Dr. Child remains silent. If this is just a natural loss, why does every event leave behind traces being erased? The police can rewrite the report, but they can't rewrite the facts. They can call the old timeline a slip, but they can't explain why Betsy was alive on February 12th. Who set her departure date as February 11th? Gene Hackman passed away naturally, or was he silenced from speaking the truth? It may never be revealed, but the fragments still wait for a bold soul to piece them together. They, Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa, may have left, but their story isn't over. Too many shadows, too many unanswered questions, and someone out there knows the truth. Will they ever dare to reveal the truth about Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa? It may forever remain an unsolved puzzle, or perhaps just a series of random twists and fragments that accidentally form a compelling story. The scattered clues, the unclear signs, leave us with countless questions. Or maybe, out there, someone holds the answer but chooses to remain silent, unwilling to disclose the secret that has been hidden for so long. This isn't a firm statement, just a guess based on what's left behind. Each clue, each detail leads us to different theories. Perhaps each of us will continue to perceive this story in our own way, never truly knowing what the real truth is. If you found the story we just shared interesting, don't forget to like, share the video, and leave your thoughts in the comments below. Be sure to subscribe to the channel to stay updated on the latest developments in the Gene Hackman story. Thank you for watching the video. See you in the next one. In the case of Gene Hackman's mysterious death, the testimony of a seemingly harmless neighbor sparked a wave of shock, overturning the entire investigation. Living just steps away from Hackman's home, this neighbor suddenly changed her story after weeks of silence, revealing astonishing details that forced the police to reopen the case. These revelations stunned the family and set the public abuzz. What did she witness on that fateful night? And why has she only now found the courage to speak out? As the truth begins to unfold, a big question arises. What is the true story behind Gene Hackman's death? And why did it take so long for these secrets to come to light? Is there something more hidden beneath the surface? The more we uncover, the more the mystery deepens. Can we handle facing the dark truth that is slowly emerging? It's a reality that may be too much to bear, but it demands answers. If you're curious about the mysterious death of Gene Hackman and the testimony of the neighbor, don't forget to like, share the video, and leave a comment below to let us know your thoughts. Be sure to subscribe to the channel to follow more updates on the case. Now, let's dive into the unsolved mysteries that still remain. Gene Hackman, a Hollywood legend who once dominated the silver screen with unforgettable roles, decided to step away from the spotlight to enjoy his final years in Santa Fe, New Mexico. No luxury, no noise, no scandal. This was the life he and his wife, Betsy Arakawa, longed for. Hackman's mansion was not just a home, but a sprawling 9,000-square-foot sanctuary, surrounded by the wild yet peaceful landscapes of Santa Fe. Unlike other Hollywood stars with properties scattered everywhere, Hackman chose a single place to call home, a true paradise after a lifetime dedicated to cinema. During those years, Hackman cared little for the glory of the past. He enjoyed a simple life, his mornings beginning with a hot cup of coffee, a few strokes of the paintbrush, then a walk through the garden, feeling the cool breeze through the branches. If Hollywood thrived on fleeting romances, Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa were proof of long-lasting dedication. They met in the 1980s when Betsy was a young piano artist. Although Hackman had been married before, Betsy convinced him that he had found his true soulmate. Together, they spent 3 humble decades. Betsy pursued her love of music, while Hackman turned to painting and writing. Neither of them sought fame nor longed for headlines. They only sought a quiet life alongside a simple existence. Strangely, even though Hackman lived a reclusive life, neighbors often saw him lingering around each morning. He would drive out to buy the paper, sometimes stopping at a familiar coffee shop. The shop owner still remembered a man with a wealth of experience, striking with his sharp eyes filled with quiet thoughts. Gene didn't speak much, but when he did, you wanted to listen. One neighbor remarked, "But there was one thing that sparked curiosity. Hackman never opened the door to strangers. Even the closest neighbors rarely crossed the threshold." Hackman's mansion was like a fortress, shared only by him and Betsy. Over time, whispers began to spread. Why did Hackman isolate himself so completely? Was he hiding something in that vast house at the time? Such questions were mere gossip, and no one could have foreseen the tragic chain of events that would unfold, changing everything. Neighbors noticed something strange about 2 weeks before the disturbance occurred. Hackman had stopped his usual trips to buy the paper, and the lights in the mansion stayed on through the night, as if someone was restless or keeping watch. Betsy vanished from sight, even though she often stopped by the nearby market to buy groceries. No one knew what was happening inside the estate. A neighbor recalled, "I remember one late night hearing a strange sound coming from his house, not arguing or shouting, but something else. A noise I still can't identify." But no one thought it was a sign of the apocalypse. No one imagined that just a few days later, no one would see Gene Hackman or Betsy Arakawa again. One morning, the mailman noticed piles of newspapers untouched outside the Hackman house. Neighbors began to take note. There was no activity in the house, no one coming or going, no sounds from inside. That was when the police were called, and when they entered, what they found shook Hollywood to its core. The way Gene Hackman faded, the way the mansion became a hollow shell of silence, was just the prelude to a tragedy far greater than any film he had ever starred in. Because just when everyone thought they had a grasp on what had happened, the shocking testimony of a neighbor changed everything. This story had only just begun. The death of Betsy Arakawa not only stunned the neighbors, but also raised a series of unanswered questions. The woman who had shared over 30 years with Gene Hackman, a steadfast pillar for the Hollywood giant, was now gone under mysterious circumstances. Betsy Arakawa was found in the bathroom on a gloomy February afternoon when the police raided the Hackman estate. No one could have predicted the first sight that would haunt them forever. Betsy slumped beside the fireplace, her head gently resting on the edge of the bathtub, as if she were sleeping. Thyroid medication packets were scattered on the floor, some pills intact, others crushed. Notably, the room was clean, with no signs of struggle or accidents, no wounds, and no evidence of external force. Yet, Betsy had disappeared. What happened when the autopsy report emerged? The mystery deepened. The official cause of death: hantavirus pulmonary syndrome, HPS, a rare disease caused by rodents, attacking the lungs and respiratory system. It starts with flu-like symptoms, rapidly worsening to cause shortness of breath, lung failure, and complete organ failure. However, this was an incident with no trace of rodents inside Hackman's house. No nests, no droppings, nothing suggesting the presence of the virus. What does this mean? The police conducted a search of the mansion for clues. Under the flashlight, they checked every dark corner, every crack, every cupboard, and any place where rodents might hide, but found nothing. The garden was also thoroughly inspected, yet no signs were discovered. Here, the first clue appeared. Faint, old footprints, a few rodent droppings that may have been there for months. But there was no evidence that rodents had infiltrated the house. So how did Betsy contract the virus? And more importantly, why did no one notice anything until it was too late? Another investigation surfaced in the autopsy report. Betsy's time of death was estimated to be around February 11th, yet her body wasn't found for several days after that. No one acknowledged her absence. There were no calls from Betsy, no sight of her stepping outside. Even the delivery person didn't receive any requests from the Hackman estate. The eerie silence lasted for a week, but something grimmer lingered. Gene Hackman also disappeared during that time. A neighbor, Linda Brooks, said something chilling. "I thought Gene had gone somewhere, but there's one thing that haunts me. On the night of February 10th, I saw their lights flickering on and off, as if someone was moving through every room, then everything went silent." What does this imply? Gene Hackman was in that house when Betsy fell ill, but why didn't he call for help? Why wasn't Betsy taken to the hospital? Why would a man play such a dangerous game? Iconic figures on screen lose all control in their own home. Gene Hackman may have known something no one else did. When the news of Betsy's death was reported, instead of clarifying matters, it only made things more complicated. A theory took root. Betsy couldn't have contracted the virus from the house. So where did it come from? Where was Gene Hackman in the days that followed? Why did the FBI suddenly get involved when this seemed to be no crime at all? These questions remain unanswered, but one thing is certain: the story is far from over. The story of Gene Hackman took a sudden turn when a witness appeared with testimony compelling enough to overturn all previous assumptions. The witness was Barbara Lenehan, the neighbor across from Gene's house, and what she shared changed everything. Barbara Lenehan hadn't wanted to intervene, but when news of Gene Hackman's passing broke, something made her feel uneasy. She recalled that just days before Betsy passed away, she had seen Betsy walking in the backyard and smiling at her in a chance encounter. Betsy looked completely fine. I didn't see any signs of illness. So how could she have passed away so suddenly in less than a week? It didn't make sense. If Betsy was truly healthy before her death, what happened to her so quickly and urgently? How did Gene Hackman spend his final days with Betsy? Gene Hackman was left alone in that vast house, and here the story takes a strange and eerie turn. Over 90 years old, Gene Hackman was diagnosed with severe Alzheimer's, his memory and cognition significantly impaired. But no one imagined that for nearly 2 weeks after Betsy's death, no one came to care for him. No family, no friends, no one. What happened after Betsy's death remains a mystery. But from the evidence collected, a grim picture formed. Gene wandered through his own home, lost in a confusion he couldn't understand. He didn't know what had happened to Betsy, didn't know where she had gone. No one cooked for him, no one brought him food. The landline still worked, but Gene didn't make a call, or perhaps he had forgotten. Days passed with no meals, no clean water, no one to talk to. Gene Hackman, the titan of Hollywood who portrayed sharp souls, was now trapped in his own estate, unaware of his gradual decline. When the police found Gene Hackman's body on February 26th, he had been dead for over a week, likely since around February 18th. A major question arose. What caused his death? The autopsy report was shocking. Gene Hackman's stomach was completely empty, with no signs that he had eaten for several days. His body was severely weakened, with vital signs at dangerously low levels. The verdict could be that he passed away from exhaustion and malnutrition. A man who had climbed Hollywood's heights, a legend who left in loneliness and despair. When this truth was revealed, outrage erupted. Why did no one notice that Gene Hackman was in danger? Why was there no medical staff or caregiver after Betsy's death? How could a legend be abandoned like this? Many feel that Gene Hackman could have lived longer if he had received timely care. But the harsh reality is that he was left alone in his own home until his final breath. Gene Hackman was once a symbol of intellect and resilience. But as the lights of Hollywood dimmed and his fame waned, he was left with an empty house and a bitter truth. If you're surprised by the story we're sharing and want to learn more, leave a comment with the number 1. If not, leave a comment with the number 0. Now, let's continue this story. No one remembered him. No grand memorials, no glowing articles about his legacy. Nothing. Barbara Lenehan said something chilling. All he deserved was a better life than this. But it's as if someone decided he shouldn't be remembered. A forgotten suit for a legend who should not fade. And this was just the beginning of a truth still hidden. The discovery left the investigators speechless. As the door opened, a strange scent wafted through the vast mansion. Dim light filtered through dusty windows. Everything was eerily still. The estate that had once been the home of Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa now stood isolated and cold, a space abandoned by time. And then they saw him for the first time in nearly 2 weeks. Someone entered the mansion. A maintenance crew and security team had been sent to check the house after losing contact with Gene Hackman. No one expected to face a sight that would haunt them for the rest of their lives. The door to the storage room creaked open, and they were left speechless. Gene Hackman lay there, motionless. Not on the bed, not in the living room, but in the storage room, a cramped corner, just a narrow passage between the kitchen and the outdoors. Beside him, a walking stick leaned against the wall, a staff on the floor, an old one. His sunglasses lay near his right hand. We thought he was just sleeping, but then one of the workers touched his shoulder, and that's when we all knew. The room fell into complete silence. No one spoke. Only the cold, painful truth remained. Gene Hackman had passed away alone, without anyone knowing. The forensic report later revealed the harsh truth about Gene Hackman's final moments, with the time of death determined by his pacemaker data. Gene Hackman took his last breath on February 18th, meaning he had been lying there for over a week before being discovered. There were no signs of injury on his body, but there were indications of severe exhaustion, dehydration, and hunger, suggesting he had perished from starvation and exhaustion. There was no disturbance, no signs of forced entry, no evidence of a struggle. It was just a silent house, filled with something strange, an eerie, invisible presence. But that's not the darkest part. The 12-acre estate in Santa Fe was not only the home of Gene and Betsy. 3 dogs lived with them, loyal companions to the couple. However, when investigators searched, they discovered something strange. One of the 3 dogs had died mysteriously. The other 2 survived, wandering the vast grounds, uncared for, neither poisoned nor attacked. The dead dog was found not far from where Betsy had been discovered, as though it had witnessed everything, then collapsed for reasons no one could explain. This raised a big question about what really happened inside that mansion. The deaths of Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa are a tragedy, but at the same time they are a mystery, a series of strange events that no one can fully unravel. What really happened inside the vast Santa Fe mansion remains a big question. What caused Betsy's sudden death? Why wasn't Gene Hackman checked for days? The police have ruled out foul play, but not everyone believes that explanation. An initial theory was raised by Gene Hackman's daughter, who suspected carbon monoxide, CO poisoning, a colorless and odorless gas that can kill quickly at high doses. This is not unfounded. The gas heating system in the mansion could have leaked CO. Symptoms of CO poisoning include dizziness, headaches, nausea, disorientation, fatigue, confusion, coma, or death with prolonged exposure. If Betsy died from CO poisoning without being detected, she could have collapsed in the bathroom and been unable to call for help. Gene, suffering from Alzheimer's, might not have recognized the danger and slowly died from the same gas, possibly taking 2 days to seek assistance. However, the police dismissed this theory as the heating system showed no signs of leakage and there were no abnormal CO levels in the tests, despite the doors being closed. Yet, doubts still remain. The confirmed cause of Betsy's death was HPS, hantavirus pulmonary syndrome, a rare disease caused by rodents. However, there are still many doubts about the virus's origin. Neighbors never saw any rodents in Hackman's neighborhood, and the police found no signs of rodents. HPS is not common, and only a few people contract it unless exposed directly to the urine or saliva of an infected rodent. So how did Betsy contract this virus? Some theories suggest she might have contracted it elsewhere before returning home, But if so, why didn't Gene get infected? Some medical experts have questioned the diagnosis, suggesting that another cause may have been overlooked in the rush. What is certain is that Betsy's sudden passing occurred before Gene Hackman's decline. Was this merely a tragic coincidence, or is there something we still haven't grasped? The most debated question is, why Gene Hackman wasn't found sooner? He was a Hollywood icon with family, friends, and relatives. Why did no one visit him for nearly 2 weeks after Betsy passed away? Who was responsible for caring for him? No medical staff was called, the family didn't reach out, and neighbors didn't see him step outside. There are still too many unanswered questions about Gene Hackman's passing. Gene Hackman, a giant of cinema who once dominated Hollywood, ended his life alone, amidst doubt and unsolved mysteries. But the biggest question remains: what did he truly leave behind for the world? Hackman's career triumphs undoubtedly overshadow the tragic shadow of his final days. But how will his legacy be remembered? The mansion where Hackman spent his final years may now become a sad monument, or perhaps it will be a forgotten place, tied to unresolved mysteries. Unanswered questions and vague theories continue to haunt Hackman's legacy. Could it be a life filled with regret and unexplainable tragedies? Gene Hackman was a symbol of resilience and talent, but his death exposed dark corners many never imagined. The doubts about his abandonment, the questions of whether anyone knew and turned a blind eye, all sparked ongoing debates. The police may have closed the case, but the questions remain, waiting for the day they might be answered. Gene Hackman's legacy, though undeniable, still resonates deeply with his fans. However, the price for the untold secrets of his life and death may forever remain one of Hollywood's greatest mysteries. The questions surrounding Hackman's death still have no answers. Is there something hidden that we don't know? His death will remain an unsolved mystery. Above all, do we ever truly know what happened in the final chapter of Gene Hackman's life? A Hollywood legend, despite the struggles at the end of his life, Gene Hackman remains one of the greatest icons of cinema. His unforgettable roles will forever be etched in the hearts of fans. However, his passing leaves many unanswered questions. Is the ending of such a great legend a mystery we may never fully understand? With over 60 years in the film industry, he was not only an exceptional actor, but also a symbol of dedication, talent, and determination. His iconic roles, from Poe Doyle in The French Connection to Lex Luthor in Superman, have always been etched in the hearts of fans. Every movie Gene Hackman participated in was not just a film, but also a slice of Hollywood history. But with all his great legacy, his death raises a profound question. Does fame and success truly guarantee a happy ending? The two homes, Santa Fe Mansion, will they become a sad monument or a forgotten shell? After Gene Hackman passed away, his home became a hot topic. Some believe it will become a heritage, a place for fans to honor him. Others believe it is tainted by the tragedies within, a place no one dares to step into. Many shudder at the thought of the 12-acre estate, where Gene Hackman lay for days, unnoticed. It was no longer an ordinary house. It became a dark memory, a symbol of loneliness and unresolved secrets. The debate continues. Will the family keep it, or will it be sold to rid itself of the painful past? Who dares to step into the setting of one of Hollywood's strangest tragedies? Regardless of its fate, the mansion will forever be linked to the mysterious final days of Gene Hackman. After the news of Gene Hackman's death spread, film lovers and colleagues planned a tribute event, a ceremony to honor his cinematic gifts and remind the world of his immense legacy. But a hurdle troubled some. Can we hold a tribute event while questions about his death remain unanswered? Are we honoring a legend or covering up a truth someone once buried? The event organizers wondered if they were obscuring a story they didn't fully understand. The tribute event went on. Hundreds of former colleagues, collaborators, and loyal fans attended. Praise echoed through the room, his films were replayed, and iconic scenes were revisited. However, a quiet unease hung in the air. Have we truly uncovered everything about the ending of Gene Hackman's life? The question lingered, casting a shadow over the celebrations. While everyone honored his legacy, there was still an underlying sense that the full story remained untold. Could we ever fully understand the mystery surrounding his final days? For many years, Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa were the epitome of a perfect couple. Betsy stood by Gene during his decline, being his most trusted companion. Gene once called Betsy the greatest gift he had ever received. However, they parted ways in the harshest manner, one falling in the bathroom, the other withering in loneliness. This has led many to wonder if fate was too cruel to them. Two souls destined to leave this world in such grim scenes, leaving questions that no one can answer. Gene Hackman had it all: fame, career, love, and wealth. But in the end, what remained was a man who had shaken Hollywood, leaving without anyone knowing. A figure who faced millions of dollars under the spotlight, but was left in the darkness of his home. His greatness cannot be erased, but was his passing a warning? Does fame shield us from loneliness? Can wealth buy a perfect ending? After all, we are left with only ourselves, and no one can answer. But one truth remains. Gene Hackman's story is not just a passing, but a legend, a tragedy, an endless mystery. Thank you for watching this video. If you found the story interesting and want to continue following, don't forget to like and share this video with your friends and everyone around you. Leave a comment with your thoughts below to let us know. And be sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next videos. See you in the next ones. After years of silence, Gene Hackman's 3 children have finally spoken out, not to honor their father's legacy, but to reveal a shocking truth. Who was the mysterious woman who stood by him until his final moments? Why has her name never been mentioned in any stories about this Hollywood legend? The buried memories haunt his last words, and a truth that could change everything we know about Gene Hackman is about to be revealed. What truly happened? And why has the family remained silent all these years? Prepare yourself, as the following revelations are set to shock the public. Let's explore these touching stories and pay tribute to these stars on their journeys. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss any stories about the legends who made television history. Gene Hackman, one of Hollywood's greatest actors, left a lasting mark with his iconic roles throughout his decades-long career. Classic films like The French Connection, Unforgiven, and The Royal Tenenbaums continue to be celebrated in cinematic history. However, behind the glitz and glamour of the screen, Hackman's private life remained admirably discreet. He shielded his family from the prying eyes of the media. When he and his wife, Betsy Arakawa, passed away, their children, Christopher, Elizabeth, and Leslie, made their first public appearance to share the immense loss they were facing. Leslie Ann Hackman, the youngest daughter of Gene Hackman, born in 1966, chose a quiet life away from the spotlight. However, this time, she could no longer remain in the shadows. When she appeared in Los Angeles, her eyes sparkled with pain, but also carried resilience. In an emotional conversation with the press, she shared, "We need time to gather information from the police." None of us could have imagined that we would have to go back to that house to face everything. But yes, we will go to New Mexico. These words were not just an announcement but a journey of acceptance, as she had to return to a home filled with memories of her parents, now left with an endless emptiness. Elizabeth Hackman, born in 1962, is Gene Hackman's second daughter. Like Leslie, she chose a private life, staying away from the noise of Hollywood. However, during this crucial time, Elizabeth could no longer remain silent. Along with Leslie and her niece Annie, Elizabeth made an emotional statement. "When we announced the passing of our father, Gene Hackman, and stepmother Betsy, he was a legend loved by millions. But to us, he was always just a loving father and grandfather. We will miss him and are deeply saddened by his loss. In the hearts of his children, Gene Hackman will forever be the greatest father." Christopher Hackman, Gene's eldest son, born in 1960, chose a completely different path from his father. In contrast to his father's fame, Christopher led a simple life, staying away from the media spotlight. Despite this, his relationship with his father was always very special. In an interview in 1984, Gene Hackman shared, "We still hug each other to this day, and I thank God for that." This statement reflects the strong and loving bond between father and son, one that never needed public display to prove its depth. Gene Hackman's passing left a significant void in the film industry and in the hearts of his loved ones. However, for his children, the love and memories of him will forever serve as invisible pillars, giving them strength on the journey ahead. The loss of both Gene and Betsy created an irreplaceable sorrow in the hearts of the Hackman family. Yet, the family quickly issued a public statement expressing gratitude and sorrow. In this statement, they emphasized that while Gene Hackman was a legendary figure on screen, to his family, he will always be remembered as a loving and devoted father and grandfather. Gene Hackman's legacy lies not only in the films he starred in, but also in the way he lived his life. Despite being a major star on screen, he maintained a humble and simple attitude in his personal life. His children know that his legacy is not just his career, but also his philosophy of perseverance and humility. Christopher Hackman shared that his father valued perseverance over fame, and this has created a solid legacy that his children are determined to protect. Gene Hackman's 3 children have decided to preserve and honor the values their father stood for. One of their first projects is the Hackman A Moving Legacy exhibition, which will showcase his standout works, rare behind-the-scenes photos, and valuable memorabilia tied to his film career. Leslie Hackman, his youngest daughter, shared, "My father didn't want to worry, but he always cherished the moments people shared about cinema. Therefore, this event will be our way of remembering and preserving those values." Betsy Arakawa may not be a household name in the entertainment industry, but to Gene Hackman, she was the most important woman in his life. A talented classical pianist, Betsy stood by Hackman for over 3 decades, witnessing his transformation from a legendary movie star to a man seeking peace in his later years. Leslie Hackman, Gene's daughter, expressed deep gratitude when recalling her stepmother. "They had a wonderful marriage. I am truly grateful to Betsy for taking such great care of my father, always attentive to his health and providing such dedicated care. I feel deeply saddened by her passing, but I will forever cherish everything she did for our family. When Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa passed away, they left an irreplaceable void in the hearts of their family and fans. However, through the heartfelt sharing of their children, Gene's legacy continues to live on in memory. Though the pain lingers, the Hackman family stands strong in preserving the flame of remembrance for the values he left behind. Gene Hackman was not only a cinematic icon with his sharp performances, but in real life, he was a husband, a lover, and a man who found peace in the love of Betsy. In the late 1980s, when his career was at its peak, Gene met Betsy, a classical pianist from Hawaii 30 years younger than him. Although the age difference and their contrasting circumstances could have been barriers, these very factors brought them closer together, deepening and solidifying their love. Gene Hackman had just come out of a marriage that spanned over 3 decades with his first wife, Faye Maltz, and it seemed like he had lost faith in love. However, Betsy came into his life like a breath of fresh air, offering Gene warmth, gentleness, and patience that he had never expected. Leslie Hackman shared, "They had a wonderful marriage. I'm grateful to Betsy for always being by my father's side, caring for him, and bringing him joy in his later years." Unlike his first marriage, when Gene was immersed in his career and often away from home, his life with Betsy was completely different. After marrying in 1991, Gene decided to reduce his workload and spend more time with his family. In 2004, he retired from Hollywood to enjoy a peaceful life with his beloved wife. This period was when Gene Hackman found tranquility and simple joys in the love he shared with Betsy. Betsy was not just Gene Hackman's wife, but also his soulmate who stood by him throughout the final years of his life. She understood him in ways few could, becoming a steady pillar of support over their 3 decades together. Even as the glow of Gene's career faded, Betsy remained by his side, caring for and supporting him. She brought not only love but also quiet sacrifice, helping Gene maintain his health and mental clarity for many years. Leslie Hackman, Gene Hackman's daughter, emotionally shared the care Betsy provided for her father in his final years. "Betsy truly helped keep my father healthy. She cared for him meticulously, worrying about every meal, every sleep, and helping him maintain both his health and mental clarity for an extended period." However, after Betsy passed away, Gene Hackman's life changed completely. The woman who had stood by his side for over 30 years, witnessing all the highs and lows of his life, was now gone. The void she left behind was so immense that nothing could ever fill it. Although Gene Hackman rarely appeared in the media, those close to him noticed a noticeable change. The man who once appeared strong and tough on screen now became more withdrawn and lonelier than ever. Elizabeth Hackman, Gene's second daughter, shared, "My father was always a very steadfast man, but after Betsy passed, I knew he had changed. Not because he was weak, but because he lost an important part of his life." Although the lives of Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa are no longer with us, their love story remains a timeless symbol of a strong and lasting relationship. Their love was not one of show or noise, but a deep affection that made those around them feel valued without the need for grand gestures. It was a love expressed through thoughtful actions, through small yet meaningful gestures, forming the foundation of a peaceful and happy life together. Betsy was not only Gene Hackman's wife, but also his companion in his later years. Even though both have passed away, the echoes of their happy marriage still resonate in the hearts of their family, friends, and loved ones. In the days following Betsy's death, the home that once was their peaceful haven turned cold. Their shared photographs still hang on the walls. The piano Betsy played during the late afternoons remains, and the books Gene often read are neatly arranged on the shelves. However, all of it is now enveloped in a haunting silence, a sorrow that cannot be soothed. Although the details of Betsy's passing were not made public, the family only announced that she had passed away due to health reasons. The truth shocked many when it was eventually revealed. Betsy died from Harris lung syndrome, a rare and extremely dangerous illness transmitted by rodents, causing acute respiratory failure. What was particularly frightening about this disease is how rapidly it can progress, sometimes within just a few days. No one could have anticipated that such a rare illness would take her life. Before falling ill, Betsy was in perfect health, full of energy. But within just a few weeks, the disease struck suddenly, taking away the woman who had spent her life loving and caring for Gene Hackman, leaving a massive void in the hearts of those who loved her. Gene Hackman also passed away shortly after Betsy. The final years of his life were marked by confusion due to illness. He struggled with heart disease and Alzheimer's, which disrupted his memory, causing familiar faces to become unfamiliar and conversations to become fragmented. His family believed that perhaps he no longer had the clarity to realize that Betsy was gone forever. After her death, he stopped asking about or mentioning her, instead sitting quietly by the window, his eyes distant as if searching for something undefined. Leslie Hackman tearfully shared, "The most painful thing wasn't that my father lost the person he loved most, but that he didn't recognize it. He didn't cry, didn't ask, just sat in silence, as if a part of his memory had gone with Betsy." Gene and Betsy chose a quiet life, away from the spotlight of Hollywood, savoring simple pleasures. But now both are gone, leaving Gene's 3 children with an endless void. The loss of both their father and stepmother has left an irreplaceable gap in the hearts of Leslie, Elizabeth, and Christopher Hackman. They not only lost 2 of their closest companions, but also had to learn how to cope with the loss of the ones who were the foundation of their family. Christopher, Gene's eldest son, shared in an interview, "We always thought we had more time. We thought we could make more memories with them. But it passed too quickly. We didn't have time to prepare, didn't have time to say all the things we wanted to say." Although Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa have passed, their legacy lives on in the hearts of their family, friends, and fans. The love they shared, the moments they experienced together, and the journey they took over decades stand as proof of an eternal love, a bond unbreakable, even by death. The Hackman family continues to live with the memories of Gene and Betsy, a part of their lives they will never forget. Gene Hackman never sought the spotlight, letting his work speak for itself. Though he retired from Hollywood, his legacy continues to deeply impact the film industry. Gene's children grew up under the shadow of a talented yet humble father. They understand that his legacy is not just in the films he made, but also in his attitude, his philosophy of perseverance and humility. Christopher Hackman, his eldest son, shared that his father always valued persistence over fame. Although Gene never wanted to call attention to his own importance, he undeniably deserves to be remembered for his significant contributions to the acting world. With this mindset, Gene Hackman's 3 children decided to carry out plans to preserve and honor the values their father pursued. One of the first projects was the film exhibition Hackman, A Moving Legacy, which will showcase his iconic works, rare behind-the-scenes photos, and valuable memorabilia connected to his career. Leslie Hackman, his youngest daughter, shared, "My father never wanted to worry, but he always cherished the moments people shared about film. Therefore, this event will be our way of remembering and preserving those values." This touching story makes us realize that, even in the entertainment industry of Hollywood, there are still hidden corners where family bonds are cherished and honored. If you have any other thoughts about the characters mentioned or would like to share your opinions, feel free to leave a comment. If you liked this video or have any topics you'd like us to explore, let us know. One of the prominent events to commemorate Gene Hackman is the exhibition Hackman, A Moving Legacy, which not only invites colleagues who worked with Hackman, but also offers fans the opportunity to express their thoughts and feelings about his films. The exhibition also features Gene Hackman's children, conducting documentary interviews with actors and directors who worked with him, including notable names like Clint Eastwood, Dustin Hoffman, and younger actors like Leonardo DiCaprio, Christian Bale, and Jake Gyllenhaal. These individuals, deeply influenced by Hackman's acting style, have been invited to share their reflections on the impact he had on the film industry. Gene Hackman's legacy extends beyond his iconic roles on screen. Few know that behind his powerful and sharp image, he was a strict yet loving father. Hackman always prioritized family and valued integrity in his relationships with his children. Preserving his legacy is not just about protecting his reputation, but also about spreading the values he lived by throughout his life. Although he retired from Hollywood long ago, his influence continues to resonate, and his loved ones are carrying on the story of a dedicated artist and a man steadfast in his principles. Elizabeth Hackman, Gene Hackman's second daughter, recalls how her father was always strict yet filled with love. He taught his children valuable life lessons through stories. The lessons from his life in Hollywood and the roles he played have remained ingrained in their minds. When Gene portrayed a cop in The French Connection, he taught them about fairness and responsibility. When he played a villain in Superman, he explained the dangers of power and corruption. These lessons continue to live on in the hearts and minds of his children. With deep respect for the values of hard work and dedication, the Hackman family has decided to establish a scholarship fund for young talents in the acting industry. Christopher Hackman shared that his father always believed in the importance of hard work and commitment, acknowledging that his path to Hollywood was never easy, and he always valued those with genuine passion. This scholarship fund not only provides financial support, but also offers opportunities for younger generations to learn from industry veterans who were inspired by Gene Hackman. Although the Hackman family has successfully preserved his legacy, they couldn't escape the intense public scrutiny following his passing. False stories, sensational headlines, and the media's invasive attention surrounded the Hackman family. Elizabeth Hackman couldn't hide her frustration when reading inaccurate articles about her family. "They don't know anything about us, yet they write as if they are part of our family." Both she and her sister Leslie, despite being familiar with the entertainment industry, felt exhausted by the unwanted public attention. Christopher Hackman, the eldest son, chose silence, focusing on shielding the family from the false rumors. Despite facing grief and public pressure, the Hackman family continues to uphold the values and legacy that Gene Hackman left behind. His legacy is not only in the classic films he starred in, but also in the lessons of perseverance, fairness, and family love. The next generations of the Hackman family are carrying forward the story of a legend and protecting the values he cherished throughout his life. Although Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa have both passed away, the Hackman family continues to face many questions from the public and the media. One of the big questions is whether the family will hold a public memorial or keep everything private. While there is no official answer, sources suggest that Hackman's old friends, such as Clint Eastwood and Dustin Hoffman, have reached out to offer help in organizing a memorial event. However, whether this will actually happen remains a mystery. Despite the external attention, the Hackman family is determined not to turn their grief into a sensational story. Christopher Hackman, Gene's eldest son, has always been the pillar of the family, but this time he feels suffocated under the pressure from the public. A close friend of his shared that Christopher always wants to control everything, but this time, he couldn't, and that made him feel helpless. Elizabeth Hackman, Gene's daughter, chose to stay away from the media to protect her father's image. She feared that articles and headlines would distort the image of her father that she has always cherished. Leslie Hackman, who has always tried to share the values her parents taught her, also felt hesitant about appearing before the public for the first time. She sighed and said, "My father wanted us to be strong, but sometimes I just want to escape from it all." Although each member of the Hackman family faces loss in their own way, one thing remains unchanged: their unwavering determination to do everything for their father. Elizabeth Hackman said, "My father never cared about fame. He only cared about work and family. If we're going to do anything, we should do it for him, not for the public." This reflects the Hackman family's commitment to preserving Gene Hackman's legacy without seeking attention. They will hold memorial events out of love and respect for him, not because of pressure from the outside world. Eventually, the Hackman family found peace after the intense public attention. They were no longer the shining star they once were, and the excitement of their appearances faded. Instead, they found comfort in simple moments, like family meals, long evenings of conversation, or just sitting together in silence. Elizabeth, who had once stayed away from social media, now found the strength to face reality. She opened her father's old letters, listening to the recordings he had sent. Strangely, instead of hurting her, these moments made her feel closer to him than ever before. Christopher Hackman, who had always tried to protect his family from external pressures, gradually began learning how to face his own pain. One day, while sorting through his father's belongings, he stumbled upon an unsent letter. The words in the letter made Christopher realize that moving forward didn't mean leaving the past behind, but rather keeping it with him. The letter read, "One day I will no longer be here, but that doesn't mean I'm gone. As long as you remember me, my stories, the lessons I taught you, and the love I gave you, I will always be there in every step you take." Leslie Hackman, who had always tried to keep everything balanced, eventually allowed herself to express her emotions. One evening, she shared with Elizabeth, "Do you think that if we keep suppressing our feelings, we'll lose what Dad wanted for us?" These words were not just an expression of sorrow, but also an acknowledgement that sometimes facing our emotions is necessary to continue living with the legacy that our parents left behind. Although Christopher Hackman tried to protect his family from public attention, He could not deny the immense pressure from public opinion every day. Genuine fans expressed their condolences for Gene Hackman, with thousands of social media posts memorializing him. One fan wrote, "Gene Hackman wasn't just an actor, he was a storyteller, a legend, a part of our lives." While the public continued to speculate, the Hackman family knew that their journey was their own, not to please the public, but out of love and respect for their great father. Although the Hackman family has lost their father and partner, they continue to share stories about him with pride and reverence. Every time they gather, memories from their childhood, of the times he was strict with them, are brought up as a cherished part of their lives. Elizabeth Hackman shares, "We may have lost our father, but we haven't lost the family he built, and that is the most important thing." Gene Hackman not only left behind a cinematic legacy, but also a family legacy, a lasting bond that nothing can break. With the belief that their father's legacy must be preserved, Gene Hackman's children decided not only to keep the memories alive, but also to carry out significant plans to honor him. Christopher Hackman, who once thought his father's career was a thing of the past, has now planned to organize an exhibition about Gene Hackman's life and career. He wants the exhibition to be more than just a tribute to a film legend. It should also be an opportunity for people to understand the real man behind the screen. Elizabeth Hackman, though not a public figure, decided to write a book about her father. This book would not only tell the story of a Hollywood star, but also of a father, a humble man who was exceptional in his own way. Meanwhile, Leslie Hackman, with her experience in the media industry, teamed up with a director to create a documentary about Gene Hackman. She wanted the audience to remember not just his remarkable performances, but also the man who created them, a resilient man who, despite life's ups and downs, remained steadfast. They didn't do this to respond to the media or for the public's approval. They did it for their father. This is how they express their respect and love for him, and that is the most important thing. Loss is never easy, but even in the darkest days, they realized that no matter how much pain they felt, they still had to move forward. Gene Hackman always wanted them to keep living, and now his children are continuing that journey, not to replace him, but to keep his legacy alive within them. Although Gene Hackman is no longer with his family, his legacy will never fade. Each of his films, every story he told, and every moment shared within his family will live on in the hearts of his fans. His legacy is the story of enduring love and an unbreakable family bond. The Hackman family knows that Gene Hackman's life was not just a cinematic legend, but also a testament to a life full of meaning. Let's cherish the values Gene Hackman brought and continue writing the story he began. Truly great people never disappear, even when they leave this world. Thank you for watching. If you found this video meaningful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel to explore more inspiring stories together. See you in the next video. In a candid moment, Dustin Hoffman has finally spoken out about the death of his longtime friend and Hollywood legend, Gene Hackman. For years, fans have wondered what happened to Hackman after he abruptly stepped away from the spotlight. And now, Hoffman is opening up to share the shocking truth behind Hackman's disappearance. Was it just a quiet retreat from Hollywood or something more profound? If you're a fan of Gene Hackman or Dustin Hoffman, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe so you don't miss out on more exciting videos revealing untold stories from the film industry. Share your thoughts on Hackman's departure in the comments below this video. Dustin Hoffman and Gene Hackman, two names that once dominated Hollywood, two cinematic icons that everyone in the industry had to admire. But for decades, there was an undeniable truth. Hoffman rarely spoke about Hackman. Even though they came from the same place, shared tough days when they first entered the entertainment industry, and both reached the heights of Hollywood, there was always an unexplained gap between them. A silence that stretched to the point of becoming a mystery. People would hear Hoffman talk about Al Pacino, Robert De Niro, Jack Nicholson, or even younger actors like Leonardo DiCaprio, but Gene Hackman was seldom mentioned. Hollywood is a place full of untold stories, where rumors can be exaggerated beyond the truth. And for many years, Hoffman's silence about Hackman sparked a series of speculations. Was there a major conflict between them? Or had they simply lost contact over time? Was there an unspoken rivalry between the two former friends? The answer was never revealed. Even when Hackman decided to retire from the screen in 2004, disappearing from Hollywood to live a reclusive life, Hoffman remained silent. There were no congratulations, no emotional posts, and no mention of Gene Hackman in interviews. Many journalists tried to inquire, but when asked, Hoffman always dodged the question. He could talk for hours about the films Rain Man or The Graduate. But when Hackman's name came up, he would simply smile and change the subject. A strange reaction that everyone noticed. What about Hackman? He never mentioned Hoffman either. But with Hackman, that was not surprising. He was a private person, despised the glitz of Hollywood, and preferred a quiet life. However, for Hoffman, an open individual always ready to share a story, that silence became a big question mark. In 2004, Hackman appeared in the film Welcome to Mooseport, a comedy that was not successful. No one expected it to be his final appearance on screen. There was no official retirement announcement, no grand press conference, no emotional farewell to the audience. Hackman simply disappeared. One day, he left Hollywood and never returned. All that was known was that he moved to Santa Fe, New Mexico, to live a simple life with his wife, Betsy Arakawa. Occasionally, some paparazzi photos of Hackman cycling or shopping would appear in the news. Each time, fans would buzz, "What's Gene Hackman up to now?" But he never answered, and neither did Dustin Hoffman. As the years passed, the silence continued. People gradually accepted that maybe there was nothing significant between them, just two old colleagues who had lost touch. But then, news about Gene Hackman shocked the world. Hollywood was shaken. A wave of tributes poured in from all corners. Actors who had worked with Hackman expressed their respect. Clint Eastwood, Robert Duvall, Barbra Streisand, and many others. Everyone was talking about him, except for one person, Dustin Hoffman. In the early days, his silence raised even more questions. What would he say? Or would he remain silent like he had for all those years? And then, finally, he spoke up. Hoffman's words were unlike any other tribute. They were not filled with respect or fond memories. There were no stories of friendship or admiration. Instead, it was a confession. Dustin Hoffman admitted that he was wrong, that there was something between them, something he had always avoided, something he should have addressed long ago. But now, it was too late. No one knows exactly what happened between them, but clearly, it was not just time or the busyness of life. It was something deeper, a wound that had never been healed. And when Dustin Hoffman finally spoke up, he realized there was nothing he could change anymore. His years of silence had said it all. If you found the story of Gene Hackman and Dustin Hoffman interesting, don't forget to leave a like and share this video with your friends. Leave a comment below to let us know your thoughts on the secrets behind Hackman's departure. And make sure to hit subscribe so you won't miss out on more exciting videos. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. If anyone had witnessed Dustin Hoffman and Gene Hackman in the early years of their careers, they would never have imagined that their relationship would become so complicated. Before becoming top stars in Hollywood, they were close friends, companions who shared struggles, fought for their artistic dreams, and went through tough times when no one knew their names. But that friendship didn't last forever. Over time, competition, differing career perspectives, and perhaps both of their larger-than-life egos pushed them to opposite sides. And when Gene Hackman left Hollywood, Dustin Hoffman remained silent about his old friend. A silence that lasted for decades, only broken when it was already too late. New York, the 1950s. Both Hoffman and Hackman were young, ambitious men, driven by the desire to become great actors. They met while attending a course at the Pasadena Playhouse, one of the most prestigious acting schools at the time. Neither of them had an easy start. Without wealthy families or powerful connections in the industry, Hoffman, with his small frame and face that didn't fit the Hollywood heartthrob mold, was often underestimated. According to some sources, a teacher at Pasadena Playhouse even bluntly told him that he didn't have the qualities to become a leading actor. In contrast, Gene Hackman, with his muscular build, strong attitude, and all-American face, quickly made an impression. However, they became friends, sharing the tough days together. They rented a small apartment, lived day by day with odd jobs, and always encouraged each other that one day they would succeed. However, their careers began to take different paths. Hackman started landing notable roles in the early 1960s. He quickly proved his talent and became one of the most sought-after actors. His breakthrough role in Bonnie and Clyde, 1967, not only earned him an Oscar nomination, but also placed him among Hollywood's rising stars. Meanwhile, Hoffman continued to struggle with smaller roles, still searching for his big break while Hackman began to bask in the spotlight. Perhaps that was the first moment when the distance between them began to appear. No longer were they two companions on a difficult journey, but one had reached the destination, while the other was still running the race. In 1967, Hoffman's opportunity finally came with the role of Benjamin Braddock in The Graduate. This role catapulted him to the top, earning him an Oscar nomination for Best Actor and officially establishing him as one of Hollywood's leading faces. However, even as Hoffman gained the same level of fame as Hackman, something between them had changed. As both became stars, people began to notice that Hoffman and Hackman rarely appeared together, despite their previously close relationship. There were no fun behind-the-scenes stories, no compliments exchanged in the media, only an unexplainable distance. Some rumors suggested that Hoffman and Hackman had a falling out while competing for major roles. Both were strong-willed actors, pursuing iconic roles, and this may have created an underlying rivalry between them. Once an industry insider mentioned that they were friends, but also rivals. And in Hollywood, competition can turn friendship into something entirely different. Hoffman, with his humorous personality and versatile acting style, often chose complex roles that required psychological depth. Hackman, on the other hand, embodied strength and realism, always exuding a decisive energy on screen. This difference in their approaches made them two completely contrasting types of actors, and perhaps that's why they never truly became close again. There was no official confirmation about the rift between the two, but their silence was the clearest evidence. Hoffman could talk about all his colleagues, from Robert De Niro, Al Pacino, to Meryl Streep, but never mentioned Hackman. Hackman, although rarely seen in the media, also never mentioned Hoffman. And then, when Gene Hackman passed away, Dustin Hoffman finally spoke up. But instead of an emotional eulogy as many had expected, he simply said, "I should have reached out to him." There were no stories of fond memories, no praise for Hackman's talent. Just a brief sentence, a late acknowledgement that there had been something between them that was never resolved. At this point, all the long-standing rumors seemed to have an answer. Dustin Hoffman and Gene Hackman were not just two Hollywood legends. They were once close friends, two people who stood by each other, but were swept up in the whirlwind of careers, fame, and decisions that couldn't be undone. And in the end, when one of them passed, the other realized that there were words that should have been said long ago, but now everything is just the past. Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa were once a famous couple in Hollywood, admired by many and surrounded by friends in powerful circles. However, when they suddenly disappeared from the public eye, no one thought it was unusual. Why? Because they had always lived a very private life. After Hackman retired in 2004, he completely withdrew from Hollywood, even turning down the rare interview requests. The couple enjoyed a peaceful life, isolated from the spotlight, without any presence on social media. Family and friends rarely contacted them, and those closest to Hackman noticed that he became more reclusive, even distancing himself from people he had once been close to. Their neighbors didn't suspect anything unusual either. Hackman's property was located in a remote area of Santa Fe, and his seldom outings were nothing new, as he had always preferred to live in the shadows. The first person to uncover the truth was a maintenance worker, hired to check the house after no one responded to phone calls for several days. When he entered the estate, he discovered that Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa's world had fallen into a strange silence. Betsy Arakawa was found deceased, and her death raised many questions. However, Gene Hackman appeared unaffected and remained healthy. Despite the mystery surrounding her death, what puzzled people even more was the lack of any clear explanation for what had happened. Some speculated whether someone had entered the house and caused these events, but no definitive answers were found. The circumstances surrounding Betsy Arakawa's death remained shrouded in ambiguity. Gene Hackman, a legendary actor with a career spanning over 40 years, became famous for his roles in films such as Unforgiven, The French Connection, Superman, and The Royal Tenenbaums. However, after retiring, he chose to step away from the spotlight. Hackman stopped attending award ceremonies, avoided public events, and gradually distanced himself from many old friends in the film industry. The life of a man who once enjoyed immense glory and success has now faded into the silence of an abandoned mansion and the lonely years of his final days. When Hackman passed away, there were no family members by his side, no public tributes, and no emotional farewells from colleagues. Just silence, an unsolved mystery, and a cinematic legacy that will live on through generations. Gene Hackman will be remembered as one of the greatest actors in film history, with 2 Oscars and a legacy of timeless classic films. But will he also be remembered as a man who spent his final years in solitude, fading from the public eye, with no one ever truly knowing the full story of his life? Hackman's story serves as a poignant reminder of the fragility of life. No matter how successful you become or how brightly you shine, in the end, What matters most are the connections we have with others. When the spotlight fades, it is the people by your side that truly matter. For Gene Hackman, the light may have dimmed in solitude, but his legacy, with unforgettable performances, will live on through the ages. The story of Gene Hackman and the secrets hidden beneath his mansion will surely make you reflect. These strange discoveries not only reveal dark corners of a Hollywood legend's life, but also raise mysterious questions that remain unanswered. What do you think about these secrets? Could they change the way we perceive Hackman and his private life? Hollywood can turn ordinary people into legends, but it can also turn legends into lonely souls. The bright lights on the red carpet don't shine forever. And when they fade, many stars realize they have lost so much: friends, family, and real connections with the outside world. Gene Hackman and Dustin Hoffman, despite being prominent names, never truly stood together. They entered Hollywood through different paths and were placed into a rivalry they perhaps never wanted. Hollywood is not only a place that celebrates talent, but also a ruthless battlefield, where fame can be built and destroyed in an instant. Actors not only compete for roles, but also struggle to maintain their stardom in a sea of ambition. When Hackman and Hoffman began their careers, they were not strangers. Both came from New York, fighting for small roles, facing disappointing auditions, and enduring tough days trying to pay rent. But then, their paths diverged in different directions. Hackman quickly became one of Hollywood's top faces. With The French Connection, 1971, he won an Oscar and solidified his position among the finest talents. Subsequent films like The Conversation, Superman, and Unforgiven continued to affirm his reputation as one of the greatest actors of all time. Meanwhile, Hoffman struggled longer to achieve success. The Graduate, 1967, was his big breakthrough. But even after becoming a star, Hoffman was haunted by the need to constantly prove himself. He always felt like an outsider in a Hollywood filled with leading men. And Hackman, with his tough and rugged appearance, was the complete opposite of him. Was it Hollywood that initially placed them in opposition? The careers of Hackman and Hoffman have many similarities, but their personalities are completely different. Hackman is straightforward, somewhat blunt, and unafraid to express his opinions. Hoffman, on the other hand, is meticulous, anxious, and always feels the need to work harder to prove himself. Both are exceptional actors, but while Hackman seemed to achieve success naturally, Hoffman had to struggle every day to maintain his position. This inadvertently created an unavoidable rivalry between them, a quiet yet fierce competition. Hoffman once said in an interview, "Hollywood is not a place to make friends. It's a place to survive." Perhaps that's why, despite being friends, Hackman and Hoffman never truly stood together. They were too busy maintaining their positions in an unforgiving industry. One of the saddest things about Hollywood legends is the loneliness they often face in their later years. Hackman left Hollywood in 2004 without a formal farewell. He vanished from the spotlight, choosing a quiet life in Santa Fe with his wife, Betsy Arakawa. Those who worked with him described Hackman as someone who disliked the noise of Hollywood. But was that his choice? Or was it the only way for him to escape an industry that had drained him of his energy? Dustin Hoffman is still active in the film industry, but over time, he has appeared less frequently. Major films no longer come to him as they once did, and the friends who once stood by him have become few. Hackman was one of Hollywood's greatest actors, but when he stepped away from the spotlight, how many truly remembered him? When news of Hackman's passing was announced, tributes quickly flooded in from all corners. Yet, sadly, in his later years, He was no longer a part of Hollywood. He didn't attend prestigious award ceremonies, there were no special tributes, and he seemed to have been forgotten. The story of Hackman and Hoffman is not just about two old friends, but also a reflection of the harshness of Hollywood. It's a place that gave them everything: fame, wealth, recognition, but also a place that made them lose the most important things. Gene Hackman spent his life creating great characters, but in the end, when the lights dimmed, he was left with only loneliness. Dustin Hoffman wasn't much better off. When he said, "I should have reached out," it wasn't just regret about Hackman, but a late realization of his own solitude. Hollywood is a place full of glamour, but it's also a place that can take everything away. And sadly, even legends can't escape that cruel law. Hollywood has an unspoken rule: you either leave in glory or you're forgotten. Gene Hackman chose the latter. There was no official farewell, no grand tributes, no emotional final interviews. He disappeared completely from Hollywood, as if he had never existed in the industry at all. And that made Dustin Hoffman wonder if Hackman was truly content with that decision. In 2004, Gene Hackman performed his final role in Welcome to Mooseport, but no one knew that would be his last appearance. There was no retirement announcement or farewell press conference. He simply withdrew from Hollywood. Unlike legends such as Jack Nicholson or Robert Redford, Hackman severed all ties with the film industry, not attending events or accepting awards. Dustin Hoffman often wondered if Hackman was truly content with that decision. While Hackman chose a quiet life in Santa Fe, Hoffman felt that Hackman had given up too much. Hackman no longer needed the spotlight, but this left many questioning whether he regretted completely severing ties with Hollywood. However, Hoffman couldn't help but feel that Hackman had left behind too much. Other legends like Jack Nicholson, Robert Redford, and Clint Eastwood continued to maintain their presence, but Hackman chose to vanish completely. This made many wonder if he was simply tired of Hollywood or if there was a deeper reason behind his decision. Hackman is one of the greatest actors, but after leaving Hollywood, his name slowly faded. No one mentions him like they do Al Pacino or Robert De Niro. Hoffman regrets that Hackman never tried to return or be recognized once again. While it may have been Hackman's choice, that decision still left a void that's hard to fill, making us wonder if he truly left or was forgotten. Dustin Hoffman finally said the words that should have been said long ago, but by then, it couldn't change the past. Gene Hackman's passing wasn't just a loss for Hollywood, but also marked the end of a golden generation, an era when actors were not just performers on screen, but lived in each character. Hackman was one of the rare few who never tried to be a star. He simply focused on acting, on deep roles, on making the audience believe that he was the character, not just playing it. And now, Hollywood must say goodbye to one of the greatest actors it has ever had. Hoffman, who had shared the screen with countless legends and could transform into any character with absolute conviction, is now left with only one thing: regret. Not just regret for a once close relationship that is now faded. Not just regret for the years of distance, when both could have reconciled, but neither spoke up. But also regret that Hackman passed away without receiving a proper tribute from his old friend. Gene Hackman, Dustin Hoffman, Al Pacino, Robert De Niro, Jack Nicholson. These names are not just icons, but marks of an irreplaceable era. They come from a generation where acting was everything, where Hollywood was not dominated by billion-dollar blockbusters or films heavily reliant on visual effects. Hackman was far more unique than his contemporaries. He didn't chase fame. He didn't appear on the red carpet unless absolutely necessary. He didn't engage in controversies or try to stand out. He was simply someone who loved acting and let his work speak for itself. But because of this, Hackman's departure made Hollywood feel emptier. When an actor like Hackman leaves this world, it's not just the loss of a person, but the passing of an entire era. An era where legends were remembered not just for their roles, but for how they immersed themselves in characters rather than striving to become stars. Hollywood will go on. New films will be made. New stars will rise. But there is one undeniable truth. There will never be another Gene Hackman. Dustin Hoffman understands this. And that's why, even though his words came too late, they are incredibly important. Gene Hackman is one of the greatest actors of all time. Gene Hackman may have left Hollywood before his life ended, but he will never truly disappear because legends never have a sequel. Gene Hackman may have chosen to leave Hollywood, but Hollywood will never forget him. His films remain, his performances continue to inspire, and his legacy lives on. Hoffman may have spoken his words too late, but at least he spoke up to remind the world that Gene Hackman was not just a great actor, but an irreplaceable legend. Dustin Hoffman's final words about Gene Hackman's death revealed a shocking truth that many never expected. After years of silence, Hoffman opened up about the loss of his longtime friend and colleague, shedding light on a side of Hackman's life that few knew. While many assumed their friendship had faded due to the fierce competition in Hollywood, Hoffman's revelation added a deeper layer to their story. Hoffman admitted that while they had a close bond in their early years in Hollywood, there was something deeper behind Hackman's decision to retreat from the public eye. Hackman's departure from the spotlight wasn't just a choice to step away from fame. It was a deliberate effort to escape the toxic nature of Hollywood. Hackman, known for his private and reserved nature, always valued peace over the glamour of the industry. But even in his isolation, Hoffman realized that Hackman's life remained surrounded by unspoken complexities and regrets. Hoffman's revelation also pointed out that in his later years, Hackman wasn't entirely content with his choice to withdraw, and may have been seeking reconciliation in the quiet moments of his life. Hackman's death didn't just mark the end of a legendary career, it also marked the loss of a man who, despite his many accomplishments, carried the complexities of his personal choices. The shocking truth about Hackman's death, revealed through Hoffman's emotional reflection, shows how deeply their friendship and Hollywood itself were intertwined. It serves as a reminder that even the most legendary figures have regrets, that time is often our greatest enemy, and that sometimes certain friendships will never find closure. Thank you all for watching this video. Gene Hackman was not only a Hollywood legend, but also a cherished friend and colleague. Although he has stepped away from the spotlight, Hackman's legacy continues to live on in the hearts of fans and in the films he left behind. I hope these stories help us better understand what truly happened behind the scenes. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe to keep up with more emotional stories. See you in the next video. Gene Hackman wasn't just a Hollywood legend. He was a force of nature. With unforgettable roles in The French Connection and Unforgiven, he defined an era of cinema. But after 4 decades at the top, he vanished without a grand farewell, without a final bow. No press tours, no tributes, just silence. And behind that silence lies a story of secrets, betrayals, and a life carefully hidden from the world. In this video, we uncover the shocking truth behind Gene Hackman's mysterious death, the hidden financial struggles he left behind, and why Hollywood, and even his own family, seemed to erase his legacy. Was it simply old age, or is there a darker secret lurking beneath the surface? If this fascinates you, drop a 1 in the comments. If not, leave a 0. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications for more mind-blowing revelations. Gene Hackman's daughter now whispers eerie words, as if unearthing the crumbling remains of a legend who once ruled Hollywood. No dramatic sorrow, no heartfelt tribute. Leslie Hackman's strange, unsettled reaction sent shockwaves through an already fractured family, fueling speculation and turning relentless reporters into predators circling a long-buried secret. Hackman was found lifeless in a cold, desolate house, the air thick with toxic fumes. But the real shock wasn't his death. It was the 2 decades of silence, shattered the moment Leslie finally spoke. The daughter who once remained in the shadows has now become the key witness. But instead of grief, every word she utters cuts like a blade, exposing a grim truth no one dared to face. Leslie Hackman isn't preserving Gene Hackman's legacy. She's dismantling it, turning it into a ghost of what it once was. Behind her icy gaze and cryptic statements, she harbors a chilling secret, one that threatens to rewrite everything we thought we knew about her father. Gene Hackman, once the undisputed king of Hollywood, dominated the silver screen with unforgettable performances in The French Connection, Unforgiven, Bonnie and Clyde, and Superman. His face graced the covers of elite magazines. He walked red carpets under blinding lights, and he reveled in the applause of millions. But after 2004, he vanished without a farewell. No grand retirement speech, no final bow. He never returned for award ceremonies, never stepped onto a press stage again. It was as if Hollywood's legend had simply evaporated, his name fading into anniversary retrospectives and lists of stars from a bygone era. He withdrew even further, letting time erase his own legend from Hollywood's dazzling spotlight. Seeking solitude, Hackman and his wife, Betsy Arakawa, 31 years his junior, found refuge in Santa Fe, New Mexico. Their $3.8 million retreat, hidden among the towering mountains, became their world. No red carpets, no flashing cameras, just the two of them, 3 loyal dogs, and the quiet rhythm of days slipping by, far from the chaos of fame. Neighbors in Santa Fe rarely saw Hackman venture out in the mornings. Instead, he would sit on his porch, a cup of coffee in hand, staring silently at the distant mountains. The once commanding presence in a sheriff's uniform had faded into that of a frail old man, his deep-set eyes carrying unspoken secrets. His life felt like an old film stuck in slow motion, each memory, each forgotten scene flickering behind his closed eyes, replaying in an endless loop of the past. Betsy Arakawa, once met with skepticism by Hackman's family, ultimately became the one who stood by him the longest. She cared for him with the precision of a seasoned nurse, ensuring every pill, every meal was in place. But was her devotion truly unconditional love? Or was Betsy, like their secluded Santa Fe home, a sanctuary on the surface, yet a silent prison where Hackman's loneliness grew, unseen and inescapable? Close friends who visited Hackman noticed a profound change in him after he withdrew from Hollywood. He spoke sparingly, avoided any mention of his career, and never rewatched his own films. Any new script that found its way to him was swiftly dismissed, often by Betsy before he even saw it. In a rare interview, Hackman admitted, "I haven't watched my films in years. They're part of the past. They don't belong to me anymore." For 2 decades, from 2004 to 2024, Hackman lived like a ghost, his presence fading, his name whispered only in nostalgia. No grand events, no red carpets, no interviews. The world caught a rare glimpse of him in 2023 when paparazzi snapped a photo of Hackman and Betsy at a modest seafood restaurant. He looked frail, his frame thinner, his steps unsteady as he clung to his wife's arm. Yet, even in that fleeting moment, the same piercing intensity that once dominated the French Connection still flickered beneath the years. Neighbors recall that Hackman's house remained mostly sealed off, its silence rarely broken. But on certain late nights, faint arguments could be heard drifting through the walls. No one knew what was said, only that Betsy always seemed to have the final word. An eerie presence surrounded the home, an unspoken tension that made people uneasy, as if the walls themselves held secrets too heavy to be revealed. For 21 years, Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa vanished from the public eye. Their absence became a velvet curtain, sealing off the final act of a legendary career while igniting endless speculation. Some believed Hackman spiraled into depression after leaving the spotlight, while others whispered that Betsy kept him isolated, controlling his fortune from behind closed doors. Whatever the truth, Hackman embraced the silence, as if he were erasing his own name from Hollywood's history. In Hollywood, vanishing didn't mean being forgotten. But for Hackman, it was a deliberate choice. He rejected interviews, ignored invitations, and even declined a Lifetime Achievement Oscar. To many, it was baffling. Why would a man who had given his life to his craft turn his back on it completely? His silence wasn't just withdrawal, it was a warning. No one who spent 40 years in the spotlight could simply fade away without a trace. What was he hiding? A buried family secret, a shocking will, or a pain so deep that not even his first wife, Faye Maltz, or his 3 children ever knew the truth? When the late-night call came from Santa Fe police, reporting 2 lifeless bodies found in separate rooms and a mysteriously deceased dog, the whispers of suspicion that had lingered for 21 years exploded into a storm. Gene Hackman, once a towering force in Hollywood, was now reduced to a name on a coroner's report. The silence that had shrouded his final years was only the prelude to something far more sinister, an unraveling tragedy that left his daughter, Leslie Ann Hackman, trembling as she clutched his will, tears slipping down her face. The winding dirt roads leading to Gene Hackman's secluded estate on the outskirts of Santa Fe carried an eerie, almost forgotten stillness. Unlike California's golden glow or the crisp air of the East Coast, the high desert sun cast a weary, faded light, one that felt less like warmth and more like a silent witness, waiting for something to crumble. Perched atop a lonely hill, Gene Hackman's million-dollar estate stood in silence, guarding secrets that no one dared disturb. Neighbors rarely caught a glimpse of the couple. No casual strolls, no weekend gatherings, no visits to the local church or lively farmers' markets. When Gene and Betsy did emerge, they were nothing more than fleeting silhouettes, slipping past watchful eyes before vanishing behind the towering iron gate. They say that at dawn, when the sun barely crept over the mountains, Betsy would slip outside with the aging dog. She moved cautiously, her eyes scanning the quiet surroundings, as if dreading unseen eyes upon her. The dog's slow, heavy steps seemed to mirror the weight of something unspoken lingering in the air. Less than 15 minutes later, she would return, carefully latching the gate behind her, her touch light, almost reverent, as if she feared disturbing the restless ghosts within Gene Hackman's home. As Gene Hackman's heart grew weaker, his world shrank to the confines of his home. The only outsider who crossed the threshold was a middle-aged delivery woman, her face etched with quiet sorrow. She never lingered, only muttering a few words before leaving. Once, in a hushed tone, she confided to a neighbor, "They're hiding something big that no one knows." Betsy Arakawa, fiercely private, kept her distance from the world. Aside from Gene, she had no close connections, only the silence that clung to their secluded home like a shadow. But a neighbor living just beyond Hackman's fence noticed something peculiar. Betsy often made hushed phone calls in the backyard. Her voice was too soft to make out, but now and then fragments slipped through the trees. "He's getting worse. No, we can't let anyone know. This house isn't safe." The calls always ended the same way, with a long, weary sigh as if she carried an unbearable weight. Who was on the other end? A family member? Or someone who held the Hackman family's deepest secrets? No one knew. But as the calls became more frequent, the worry on Betsy's face only seemed to deepen. Gene Hackman's home, once hailed by the media as an architectural marvel nestled in the wilderness, carried an unshakable chill for those who stepped inside. It wasn't the cold of the desert air or the design. It was something deeper, an unspoken sorrow that clung to every corner. The walls were lined with countless framed photos, yet not a single one featured Hackman's 3 biological children. Instead, only images of him and Betsy remained, a carefully curated collection of their travels, as if the past had been deliberately erased. Hackman's children, once laughing and playing in the backyard of his Los Angeles home, had long disappeared from his life. He never spoke publicly about his health, but whispers among neighbors painted a grim picture: heart disease, arthritis, spinal degeneration. Yet the most harrowing affliction wasn't physical. It was the slow, creeping curse that haunted Hollywood's aging legends. From Marlon Brando to Katharine Hepburn and Greta Garbo, the greatest icons of the Golden Age faced the same cruel fate, fading into obscurity while still alive. For Hackman, a former box office titan whose name once guaranteed success, watching himself become just a footnote in film history may have been the most devastating illness of all. Betsy once shared in a rare conversation with a neighbor, "Gene doesn't watch his old films. He says they belong to another life." With those words, Hackman severed his final tie to Hollywood, leaving his past behind like a forgotten script. But every night, as the house fell into silence, Betsy would catch glimpses of him by the bedroom window, staring at the distant mountains, murmuring to himself. Those whispers weren't the wind or mere illusions. They were fragments of unfinished conversations between Gene Hackman and the man he used to be. the one who once stood beneath the blinding lights, believing his reign would never end. But when the doors closed and the Hollywood glow faded, all that remained was an aging man, lost in his million-dollar home. And beyond the iron gates, the world moved on, unaware that Gene Hackman still lingered, his whispers the only echo of a legend waiting to be remembered. The once secluded million-dollar estate in the New Mexico hills, a place that had concealed whispered secrets and hushed midnight calls, now stands as a chilling crime scene. Red and blue police lights flicker against the adobe walls, casting ghostly shadows into the night. Neighbors gather behind wooden fences, their whispers blending with the desert wind, trying to piece together the mystery unfolding inside a home that had been silent for so long. The police don't storm in because of frantic calls or piercing screams. Only the unsettling stillness had drawn them. It was the drug dealer, a weary-faced woman from down the road, who first noticed it, that unshakable stench. Not just decay, not just chemicals, but something far worse. An odor that clung to the air, warning that whatever was inside had been waiting to be found. When the door swung open, investigators weren't met with the chaos of a violent crime scene, but something far more unsettling: absolute silence. Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa lay in separate rooms, their bodies in different positions, yet bound by the same eerie fate. Hackman rested on his back atop the bed, the blanket neatly pulled to his chest, as if he had simply drifted off after a long, weary day. His eyes were closed, his mouth slightly parted. Not a single bruise, no signs of struggle, no indication of pain. Just the unsettling stillness of a man who had vanished from the world, leaving only silence in his wake. Just a few steps away, Betsy Arakawa was slumped beside the bed, her lifeless body frozen in an unsettling final moment. One hand still clutched the landline phone, one of the few remnants of their early years in the house. The screen showed no record of an outgoing or incoming call. Had she tried to reach someone? Had she realized too late that something was terribly wrong? Her vacant eyes remained locked on the window, where the last traces of evening light clung to the horizon, as if she had been staring at something just beyond the glass, when death arrived. When the police arrived, Gene and Betsy's 3 dogs were still in the house. 2 were alive, trembling beside their owners' lifeless bodies, their red-rimmed eyes filled with fear and exhaustion. But the oldest dog, the one Betsy had walked every morning, was dead in the hallway between the 2 bedrooms. No signs of struggle, no blood, no wounds. It looked as though it had simply fallen asleep and never woken up. But why did 2 survive while 1 did not? Was the gas not strong enough to kill them all? Or had something happened before the fumes filled the house? A tragic coincidence or a deliberate choice? The forensic team quickly inspected the heating system, gas lines, and appliances, searching for the source of the deadly fumes. What they discovered sent a chill through the investigation. There were no carbon monoxide leaks, no malfunctioning gas stoves, no electrical faults. The toxic gas that had filled the house hadn't come from any natural failure. Then came the most unsettling revelation: traces of hydrogen sulfide, a lethal gas with the stench of rotten eggs, nearly undetectable in low concentrations. But where had it come from? It wasn't seeping from the plumbing or drifting up from the drains. Instead, the evidence pointed to something far more sinister. It had been introduced, either from outside the house or, even more disturbingly, from within. Gene Hackman died without a single mark on his body. No struggle, no sign of distress. Betsy Arakawa met the same fate, except she died clutching the phone, as if desperately trying to reach someone. Could their deaths have been carefully staged to resemble an accident? A simple gas leak? But if so, why was there evidence of a gas that didn't belong in the house? Questions piled up like the unseen walls that had long concealed the secrets of their home. Who was the first to notice the deadly fumes? Did Gene slip away first, or did Betsy witness his final moments before succumbing herself? And in those last, desperate seconds, who was she trying to call? If this was murder, it wasn't impulsive. It was cold, calculated, and carried out by someone with the patience to end an aging couple's life in the most chilling way possible. The cruel irony was that Gene Hackman's children, though distant from their father, had always braced themselves for the inevitable. At 94, his passing was only a matter of time. But no one expected it to happen like this. No one thought it would take Betsy, too. The woman over 30 years his junior, the one who should have been arranging his funeral, not sharing his fate. Had they still been living as a couple, or had they quietly grown apart in that vast, lonely house? What were their last words to each other? Were Betsy's hushed phone calls tied to the silent killer in their home? Or had she unknowingly become a pawn in something much darker? As investigators draped white sheets over their bodies, the million-dollar estate fell into silence once more. But this time, the secrets inside were no longer hidden. Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa's funeral was as quiet as the final years of their lives. No flashing cameras, no intrusive headlines, just a small gathering of family. But beneath the solemn silence, tension simmered. Suspicious glances flickered between those closest to them, unspoken questions hanging in the air. The shock of losing both Gene and Betsy at once was already unsettling, but what came next sent ripples through the room. When Hackman's personal lawyer stepped forward, the air grew heavy. His will had been updated just months before their deaths. And this wasn't just a simple redistribution of wealth. It unveiled a tangled web of unexpected financial moves, cryptic investments, and unsettling transactions. Most damning of all, it exposed long-buried family conflicts, simmering just beneath the surface, now threatening to explode. The lawyer carefully unsealed the envelope, his voice steady but betraying the weight of what he was about to reveal. Gene Hackman's estate, valued at an estimated $80 million, included stocks, real estate, liquid assets, and a network of anonymous investment accounts. But the distribution was a shock. A cold, calculated division that left the room in uneasy silence. Nearly 40% of the fortune went to Betsy Arakawa, the wife more than 30 years his junior. Another 20% was split equally among Hackman's 3 biological children, a sum far less than they had expected. A modest 10% was left to an arts education charity, a move that raised no eyebrows. But it was the remaining 30% that sent a chill through those present. It had been funneled into a mysterious trust, locked away for a decade, with its primary beneficiary remaining undisclosed. The room fell into a heavy silence. Why the secrecy? Who was meant to inherit such a significant portion of Gene Hackman's legacy? And most importantly, what was he trying to hide? Who was the hidden beneficiary? Why had Gene structured his fortune this way? The lawyer clarified a crucial legal twist. since Gene and Betsy had died almost simultaneously. The exact order of their deaths couldn't be determined. Under New Mexico inheritance law, when no clear order of death is established, assets are treated as if both individuals passed at the same time. This meant Betsy's inheritance wouldn't go to her own family. It would revert back to Gene's estate. Suddenly, the equation shifted. Gene's 3 biological children, who had been left with just 20%, now stood to receive a much larger share. Yet it wasn't that simple. Betsy, the woman they had never fully accepted as family, had become an invisible yet powerful presence in their father's will. At the funeral, they remained silent, their expressions unreadable. But behind closed doors at the lawyer's office, the decades of unresolved tension, unspoken resentments, and buried betrayals erupted like a long dormant volcano, turning Gene Hackman's final legacy into a battleground. Leslie Hackman, Gene's eldest daughter, was the first to break the tense silence. Her voice trembled, though whether from grief or anger was unclear. "Betsy was never our mother. Don't expect us to pretend now," she said bitterly. David, Gene's second son, let out a dry laugh. 40% of the estate to a woman who never gave him children, while his own blood barely gets a quarter? That's rich. The weight of years, awkward family dinners, forced pleasantries, and Betsy's futile attempts to connect with them came rushing back. To Leslie and David, Betsy had always been the woman who walked into their father's life when he was already a legend, already wealthy. To them, she was simply lucky. But for Gene, Betsy had been the only constant when Hollywood's bright lights faded, when the world stopped caring. Had he truly trusted her? Or had he buried quiet suspicions beneath the cold, calculated clauses of his will? The answers, it seemed, were locked away with the secret beneficiary waiting to be unearthed. As investigators combed through Gene Hackman's assets, they uncovered something unexpected: anonymous investment accounts tied to industries far removed from Hollywood. Despite never publicly expressing interest in cryptocurrency, Hackman held significant shares in companies specializing in artificial intelligence and biological data. But the real shock came from a recent financial move. Just weeks before his death, Hackman quietly transferred nearly $2 million into an offshore account in the Cayman Islands. Why would a retired actor nearing the end of his life suddenly shift such a large sum? Was it a routine investment, or was he trying to hide something he knew time wouldn't allow him to explain? Leslie sat in the car, staring blankly ahead as silent tears traced down her face. The grief wasn't just for her father's death, it was for the truth that had unraveled before her. The man she once idolized, the father who watched movies with her as a child, was now a stranger draped in secrets. Behind the warmth of his presence lay cold calculations, hidden assets, cryptic investments, and financial dealings that felt more like a puzzle than a legacy. "Maybe we never really knew him," Leslie whispered, her voice barely audible over the hum of the engine. The multi-million-dollar inheritance, instead of being a final thread tying the family together, had become a blade, severing what little remained. A fortune left behind, but at a price no amount of money could mend. Gene Hackman was never the conventional Hollywood heartthrob. He lacked the chiseled charm of a leading man, the effortless allure of his era's romantic idols. But what he had was something far rarer: raw, undeniable power. Hackman wasn't just an actor, he was a force, devouring every frame with performances that left an imprint on cinema itself. In the 1980s, standing among Hollywood's elite in the Glorious Seven, he was a king without a throne. From The French Connection to Mississippi Burning and Unforgiven, Hackman didn't simply play roles, he embodied them. He was the rugged, unshaken core of the American identity, the weight of a fading dream etched into every line on his face. In him, audiences saw the grit of a bygone era, the decay of the American dream, the quiet agony of those the world left behind. And then, just like them, he too faded into the shadows. In 2004, Gene Hackman walked away from Hollywood, not with a grand farewell, not with a final masterpiece to cement his legacy, but with quiet resignation. He cited health reasons, but everyone knew that was just the surface of a deeper truth. Hollywood no longer had a place for him. The industry he helped shape had transformed into a blockbuster assembly line, where young faces, superhero franchises, and CGI spectacles replaced the grit and soul of serious filmmaking. The era of weathered powerhouse actors, the kind who carried entire films on raw talent alone, had faded. Producers who once fought for Hackman's time no longer called. Directors who once revered him now chased the next marketable face. Gene Hackman didn't retire. Hollywood had retired. And in its place, a new machine emerged, one that had no room for legends. After leaving Hollywood, Gene Hackman and Betsy retreated to New Mexico, a place with no red carpets, no star-studded galas, no echoes of the life he once knew. People questioned why a legend of his stature would choose such an isolated existence. The answer was simple and devastating. In Hollywood, no one needed him anymore. In New Mexico, no one knew who he was. What should have been a peaceful retirement in a $1 million desert villa slowly became a gilded cage. Hackman and Betsy lived in near-total seclusion, their ties to the world unraveling year by year. Interview requests dwindled before vanishing entirely. There were no Lifetime Achievement Awards, no grand tributes, no final recognition of a man who had once defined an era of cinema. Hollywood and the media had moved on, as if erasing his name from the history books, leaving Hackman not just forgotten, but invisible. Gene Hackman spent his final years as a ghost king, once a ruler of Hollywood, now cast aside by the very industry he helped define. The most bitter truth was that his greatest, most profound role would never be filmed. There was no script, no director, no dazzling lights. Just four walls, a few aging dogs, and a wife who watched the daily, bearing witness to the slow decline of the man she once adored. Hackman never feared death. He once admitted, "If I die alone one day, I won't be surprised. That's the fate of those who live too long in the limelight." But his exit was more than just the inevitable end of a long life. It was a sentence, a quiet, merciless verdict handed down by an industry that had no patience for aging, no room for those unwilling to bow to its ever-changing demands. Hackman didn't just fade away. He was exiled, punished for daring to live on his own terms. Gene Hackman didn't die from old age or illness. He died because Hollywood had abandoned him long before his heart ever stopped beating. The industry that once celebrated him only did so when he was profitable, when his name filled theater seats and his performances brought in Oscars. But that love was as fleeting as a Monday matinee ticket, cheap, temporary, and easily discarded. When Hackman was no longer a box office draw, no longer the man delivering unforgettable performances or headline-worthy interviews, Hollywood's love vanished. It was never real love to begin with. It was transactional, conditional, an admiration that existed only when he served a purpose. And when he became inconvenient, when he was no longer a name that could be marketed, Hollywood did what it always does. It erased him. Gene Hackman wasn't the only one. He was just one of many icons that once lit up the Hollywood sky, only to be abandoned by that very sky. Peter O'Toole, the legend from Lawrence of Arabia, passed away quietly, unnoticed. Burt Reynolds, from sex symbol to a poor old man. Mickey Rourke, a misfit trying to find his way back into the film industry after years of being considered past his prime. Gene Hackman carried the weight of an entire generation, actors who poured their souls into their craft, who refused to fit the manufactured mold, and who aged with dignity instead of surrendering to Hollywood's obsession with youth. His death wasn't just a personal loss or a farewell for film lovers. It was a damning indictment of an industry that builds legends only to discard them once they no longer serve a purpose. Betsy, in her final words, captured the cruel irony of it all. Gene never forgot who he was. It was Hollywood that forgot. The verdict on Gene Hackman's career had been passed long before his final breath. His death was only the epilogue. Hollywood didn't erase him in an instant. It erased him slowly, piece by piece, through neglect and indifference, replacing its former king with newer, shinier faces. And in the end, all that remained was the silence of a legend the industry pretended never existed. Gene Hackman passed away on a somber afternoon, without headlines, without a grand farewell. The news of his death drifted through the media as quietly as the final years he spent in the vast, lonely desert of New Mexico, a place where his name had long faded from Hollywood's memory. There was no national tribute, no mourning crowds leaving flowers at his gate, no candle-lit vigils, just a handful of brief news reports, a few dry career summaries, and then nothing. Once a cinematic titan, Hackman had become just another name lost in time, buried beneath legal documents, forgotten tax returns, and the cold calculations of his final will. But behind the paperwork, behind the silence, there were fragments, whispers of unfinished stories, secrets still waiting to be uncovered. Hackman's will didn't just divide his multi-million-dollar estate. It opened a Pandora's box of unanswered questions. A hidden portion of his wealth, entangled in offshore investments and foreign transactions, created a financial labyrinth so complex that even his own lawyer struggled to piece it together. Why would a man who once condemned tax loopholes quietly funnel assets through overseas accounts? In the years leading up to his death, why did he repeatedly revise his will, severing ties with certain relatives, adding unfamiliar names, and allocating unexplained sums to an anonymous NGO? Gene Hackman didn't just leave behind a fortune, he left behind a puzzle, and with each uncovered detail, the mystery only deepened. Gene Hackman's death was initially attributed to old age and complications from chronic heart disease. But whispers of something more sinister began circulating through local New Mexico newspapers. A chilling theory that toxic gas had seeped into his secluded home. A small but detectable amount of carbon monoxide was found within the estate. Investigators speculated that the home's aging ventilation system, though functional, may have slowly poisoned him over time, causing fatigue-induced hallucinations and accelerating his decline. What made this even more unsettling was the fact that the system had been inspected just months before Hackman's death. At the time, there were no leaks, no warning signs. Had this been a tragic accident? Or had someone deliberately turned his multi-million-dollar retreat into a death trap? Could his shadowy financial dealings have played a role in his mysterious end? Local authorities launched an investigation, but as Hollywood moved on, so did the headlines. The case, much like the man himself, slipped into silence. Leslie cried in front of the media, not only because she had lost her father, but also due to the overwhelming sense of betrayal. She thought that after years of estrangement, Hackman and she had finally reconciled, but the cold, ruthless, and calculated final will told a different story. When a legend falls, it isn't just tears that fall, but also blood, betrayal, and wounds that never heal. If Hollywood were a house, Gene Hackman was the one who built every brick. But when he passed away, Hollywood didn't look back. No official memorial, no special film festivals to honor him. In fact, some of the younger people in the industry began asking each other, "Who is Gene Hackman?" And so Hollywood, where glory and oblivion are separated by just a breath, shifted their attention to younger, more marketable stars, leaving Hackman's legacy behind. Gene Hackman, once revered as Hollywood's unthroned king, died a forgotten man on the very soil where he had built his legacy. The industry that once praised him had long since moved on, and his death was nothing more than a fleeting headline buried beneath a flood of trivial celebrity gossip. The stories were never told. The tapes were never made. His family remained silent. The public barely noticed. And as time passed, Hackman's name faded, his secret slipping into the grave with him, at least for now. Because in Hollywood, nothing stays buried forever. All it takes is someone with enough ambition or enough ruthlessness to dig them back up. One day, those hidden recordings may surface, and when they do, the world will see that Gene Hackman's death wasn't just a consequence of age or illness, but the weight of the dark secrets that followed him to the very end. But that day has yet to come. For now, the curtain has closed, and Gene Hackman, the forgotten king, lingers only as a ghost in Hollywood's shadow. He is gone, taking his decaying truths to the grave. What he left behind was not a legacy, but a curse. One that demands payment in whispers, suspicion, and wounds that time will never heal. Will the truth about Gene Hackman ever come to light, or will it remain one of Hollywood's greatest unsolved mysteries? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. And if you enjoyed this story, be sure to like, share, and subscribe so you never miss more thrilling content. See you in the next one. Nikita and Zena. Although they couldn't speak the truth, their actions became vivid signs, guiding investigators in the right direction. Their unusual behaviors, anxiety, and strange signs in the dark of night helped raise important questions. And perhaps it is through these dogs that we will truly begin to uncover the answers to the unresolved mystery. Did you know that Gene Hackman's dogs helped the FBI uncover the cause of a person's death? This story is not only mysterious, but surprisingly fascinating. Let's dive into the truth behind this special collaboration between Gene Hackman, his dogs, and the FBI in today's video. Don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you won't miss the next exciting videos. There are mysteries that cannot be solved with words alone. They hide in the footprints left on the cold ground, in the silent eyes of a creature that cannot speak but sees everything. When the Santa Fe police revealed the cause of death for Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa, all eyes were on the details they disclosed. According to the preliminary investigation, Betsy Arakawa passed away first, and Hackman, in a state of cognitive decline due to Alzheimer's, may not have realized it. But amidst all the mysteries surrounding the deaths of the couple, one small yet shocking detail caught the attention of both the media and investigators: the mysterious death of Zena, their beloved dog. The case began when the police entered the house. A strange silence enveloped every corner, but there was something odd about it all. Only one dog lay motionless inside the house, while the other two dogs, Bear and Nikita, survived and were found outside the premises. Zena, a 12-year-old Australian Kelpie, was found lying in a closed crate, just 10 to 15 feet from where Betsy Arakawa was discovered. An immediate question arose. Why was Zena in the crate while the other two dogs were free, and why did it not survive while Bear and Nikita remained safe? The Santa Fe police immediately hypothesized that Zena was locked in after a minor surgery at a veterinary clinic. This seemed plausible, as many pet owners restrict their pets' activity after they undergo a medical procedure. However, this raised another mystery. If Hackman and Arakawa passed away first, then what happened to Zena? Investigator Aaron Phipps, a veterinary expert from the state of New Mexico, commented, "It's possible that dehydration and starvation contributed to Zena's condition, based on the timeline we are working with." But is that all? What's strange here is that while Zena was locked in the crate, Bear and Nikita were found outside, alive. Bear is a German Shepherd, and Nikita is a mixed Shepherd, both in fairly good condition when the police found them. Why were these two dogs free while Zena was locked up? Joey Padilla, Hackman's close friend and owner of Santa Tales, a pet care service where Hackman and Betsy often sent their dogs when they were away, was the first to speak out about this. Gene and Betsy were wonderful people and animal lovers. Those dogs were Betsy's babies. He described Bear and Nikita as extremely intelligent and loyal dogs. They were often tasked with guarding the house whenever Hackman and Betsy were away. This sparked a bold hypothesis. Perhaps Bear and Nikita witnessed something terrible in the house and tried to escape, but Zena couldn't do the same. The Santa Fe police faced a big question. Did Zena sense something before everything happened? Some animal experts believe dogs have an extremely sharp ability to detect signs and changes in human behavior. A dog can sense a person with heart disease, recognize the signs of a stroke, and even detect unusual changes in their environment. Could it be that in the final days of Hackman and Betsy's lives, Zena sensed an unexplainable event in the house? Could it have reacted in a way that led Betsy to lock it in the crate to avoid trouble? One hypothesis was raised. If Arakawa was indeed affected by the H virus, a disease originating from rodents that can cause severe lung damage, could Zena have reacted to that? Investigator Mendoza from Santa Fe shared, "We are still waiting for the dog's autopsy results, but we have not ruled out any possibilities." Meanwhile, the possibility that Zena was affected by something in the house, something Bear and Nikita didn't face, could not be completely ruled out. Rumors began to spread, and people started offering a range of theories. Did Zena witness something terrible inside the house? Was there something in the air or the environment that caused Zena's death? Did Hackman or Arakawa do something to Zena in the final days of their lives? Although the police emphasized that there were no signs of foul play, the questions surrounding Zena's death remain unanswered. The difference in the fate of the three dogs, Zena lying motionless inside while Bear and Nikita were healthy outside, led the FBI to pursue a different line of investigation. Was there something in the house that affected Zena? And if so, could this be an important clue in uncovering the truth about what happened in Hackman's house? The answer might lie in an unexpected place, Zena's body, and the FBI knows that there's only one way to clear everything up, to uncover the real cause of her death. Can you imagine that Gene Hackman's dogs helped the FBI solve a mysterious case? This story will amaze you and make you appreciate the incredible abilities of our four-legged friends. Let's dive into the details of this special event and learn how these dogs became the heroes in the investigation. Don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you won't miss the next exciting videos. In mysterious stories, sometimes the most important witness is the one who cannot speak. Zena, the beloved dog of Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa, may have been the key piece in this puzzling case. The only problem is, it will never be able to tell the truth. 2 days before everything happened, Zena was brought home from the veterinary clinic. According to medical records, it had just undergone a minor surgical procedure, nothing to worry about. But as soon as it returned, Zena was locked in a crate, completely separated from the other two dogs, Bear and Nikita. Why was only Zena locked up? And why did it not survive while Bear and Nikita remained safe? According to a neighbor of Hackman, when Zena returned home, it seemed restless and behaved oddly, unlike its usual self. If Zena truly had an abnormal reaction, could it have sensed something that humans couldn't notice? Like a strange chemical, a mysterious sound, or a change in the environment? But if that's the case, why didn't Bear and Nikita react similarly? One controversial detail in the investigation was Zena being locked in the crate. According to some sources, Betsy Arakawa rarely locked the dogs unless there was a special reason. The separation of Zena could have been to recover from the surgery, but why was there no food or water in the crate? When investigators checked, they found the crate's lock wasn't fastened tightly, but it was still closed. Could Zena have locked itself in out of fear? Unlike Zena, Bear and Nikita were both healthy and found outside the house. If there was something dangerous inside Hackman's house, why weren't these two dogs affected? Another hypothesis was raised. Bear and Nikita may have sensed something unusual and tried to escape. Dog trainer Mark Stetson said, "Dogs have an incredibly keen sense of perception. They can detect changes in the environment even before humans notice. If Bear and Nikita felt there was danger, they may have found a way to leave the house before the incident occurred. But what made them leave without returning? Could they have seen or sensed something that humans couldn't?" Another hypothesis is that Bear and Nikita may have been released by someone, which could explain why only Zena was locked in the crate. If that's the case, was Zena intentionally left behind in the house? The biggest hypothesis presented by investigators is that Zena reacted to a dangerous element in Hackman's house. It could have been a strange smell, a toxin in the air, or even a sign of illness that it sensed from Hackman or Betsy. Dogs have the ability to detect dangerous illnesses in humans, from cancer to strokes and heart problems. Some believe that Zena sensed something was wrong with Betsy Arakawa before everything happened. A more frightening hypothesis is that Zena may have been affected by something that Bear and Nikita didn't come into contact with. If there was a chemical in the air or an environmental factor that only affected living creatures inside the house, this could explain why only Zena was impacted. The FBI began considering the possibility that Zena reacted to something that Bear and Nikita didn't encounter, perhaps a dangerous element in the house's environment. They expanded their investigation to look for any abnormalities, such as chemicals, toxins, or harmful substances that could have only affected Zena. This hypothesis suggests that something in the Hackman house environment caused Zena's reaction, while the other two dogs, being outside, were unaffected. But if this is true, what really happened inside that house? The FBI's investigation included testing the air quality inside the house, soil samples, and looking for any toxins or abnormalities that could have affected Zena. They hoped to find a clue that would explain why Zena was locked in the crate and didn't survive, while Bear and Nikita were healthy and outside the house. At the same time, the FBI also explored the possibility that Zena may have been affected by a factor that Bear and Nikita didn't encounter. This could have been a chemical or an environmental element that only affected Zena, leading to its illness or death. Zena's body was also examined for signs of poisoning or any unusual substances. Despite these efforts, the mystery remained unresolved, and the questions about Zena's final days continued to haunt the investigation. The question remains, why was Zena locked in the crate while Bear and Nikita were outside? Did Zena react to a dangerous element that humans couldn't recognize? Did Bear and Nikita detect something unusual but couldn't alert the humans? The FBI's investigation is ongoing, but it's clear that Zena holds the key to solving this mystery, even though it will never be able to speak the truth. As the investigation unfolded, Zena's presence in the house at the time of the tragic event led investigators to believe it could be the key to unlocking the mystery. While the two dogs, Bear and Nikita, were found outside the house, only Zena was locked in the crate, a strange detail that no one could explain. Did Zena hear a strange sound or notice something that no one else could sense? Why didn't Bear and Nikita return to the house? One of the major questions the FBI raised was why Bear and Nikita stayed away from the house at that time. According to animal behavior experts, dogs can sense danger in ways that humans cannot. If these two dogs were outside, it's because they sensed something was wrong. A dog expert mentioned that if there was a stranger in the house, they could have reacted strongly, and if there was a dangerous environmental factor, they might have instinctively stayed away. Whatever the reason, the FBI knew that Bear and Nikita may have made a decision that the people inside the house didn't recognize, to stay away from that place at all costs. An important step in the investigation was the autopsy of Zena's body to search for clues. This could be the key to determining whether it had been exposed to toxins, injured, or showed signs of reacting to something in the house. Tissue samples from Zena were sent for testing, and the FBI conducted a thorough analysis. They looked for traces of toxins, particularly any toxic gases that could have accumulated in the confined space. Physical signs, if Zena had been injured, could suggest a struggle or a tense event that occurred before it was locked in the crate. Pathological signs Zena may have reacted to a health condition of Hackman or Betsy that Bear and Nikita didn't recognize. The test results were a shocking revelation. All eyes were on Zena's test results. What would be uncovered? The hypotheses are still under investigation, but one thing is certain. The FBI believes Zena was not just an ordinary dog. It could be the silent witness holding the key to the greatest mystery in this case. Investigator Mendoza concluded, "We are pursuing every lead. The truth will come to light." But the big question remains. What did Zena discover on that fateful night? And could it provide the answers everyone is searching for? In an FBI forensic laboratory, a team of experts is focused on a special witness, Zena. Not a witness who can tell the story with words, but every hair, every cell on its body may hold the answers everyone is searching for. As the FBI continues to investigate the mystery surrounding Gene Hackman's death in his home, they realize that the key to solving this case may not lie with the humans, but with the little dog that stayed until the very end. Forensic experts immediately began testing important factors on Zena's body. If Zena had been exposed to a toxic gas or chemical, this could explain many things about what happened in the house. One of the major suspicions is the H virus, a dangerous virus transmitted from rodents to humans through feces and urine, which can cause severe respiratory complications. If there was a struggle or a tense event before Zena was locked in the crate, its body could show signs of that. The investigative team is facing an important question. If Zena was truly infected with the H virus, could this be the cause of Betsy Arakawa's condition? And if so, why weren't Bear and Nikita affected? The H virus is one of the terrifying hypotheses put forward by the FBI. This is a dangerous virus that can cause hantavirus pulmonary syndrome, HPS, leading to severe respiratory failure and potentially death within days if not detected in time. The virus is not transmitted directly from person to person, but is typically spread through inhaling dust containing the virus. If there were rodents in the house, the H virus could survive in their feces and urine. Direct contact with animals carrying the virus could have been the cause of Zena inadvertently coming into contact with infected rodents, bringing the virus into the house. A concerning possibility is that Zena may have been bitten by an animal in the house, possibly a rodent or another wild animal. If Arakawa was infected with the H virus from Zena, this could explain a lot, but the question remains, why weren't Bear and Nikita affected? As the FBI further analyzed how the other two dogs reacted to the event, they realized something concerning. Bear and Nikita did not return to the house, even though their owners were still inside. They showed no signs of illness or poisoning. They kept their distance from the house even when the police arrived at the scene. According to animal behavior experts, dogs can sense danger in ways humans cannot. Their nervous systems are more sensitive to toxic gases, airborne viruses, and even small changes in the environment that humans might not notice. If these dogs sense danger, their instinct would be to avoid it. They may have detected something that humans could not perceive. An animal behavior expert suggested that Bear and Nikita might know something that the FBI is still investigating. The FBI released initial results from Zena. There were no signs of injury or physical trauma, ruling out the theory of a struggle or attack. No industrial toxins or chemicals were found, making the theory of a gas leak less likely. Signs of pneumonia in Zena's tissue samples suggest a potential viral infection or exposure to an unidentified source of illness. The FBI is testing for hantavirus, virus H, and if positive, this could change the direction of the investigation. The case still leaves many unanswered questions. Where did Zena come into contact with the source of the infection? If hantavirus was present in the house, why didn't Hackman and Arakawa notice? Why was only Zena infected and not Bear or Nikita? Did Zena come into contact with something that the other two dogs didn't? The FBI is getting closer to the truth, but the pieces of the puzzle remain incomplete. One thing is certain. Zena was no ordinary dog. It may hold the key to unlocking the mystery. The police car lights reflected off the empty walls of the Hackman house. The eerie stillness of the space was broken only by the green tarp covering the remnants of the tragedy. Yet amidst all the mysteries, two of the most important witnesses stood outside, trembling in the shadows: Bear and Nikita. No one knew how long they had been there or why they hadn't returned to the house. What the witnesses described about their behavior when the police arrived raised chilling questions. According to a nearby neighbor, Bear and Nikita showed signs of panic before the bodies of Hackman and Betsy were discovered. The two dogs were running aimlessly around the house, as if searching for someone. They barked loudly at unusual hours the night before the police arrived. When found, Nikita was trembling, while Bear stood still, his gaze fixed on the door of the house. A local shopkeeper mentioned that the day before the incident, he heard continuous barking, but didn't think much of it at the time. He said, "It was strange because they usually don't bark that much, but that night was different." Bear and Nikita may have seen something that kept them from entering the house. Investigators are considering the possibility that Zena tried to alert them before it was too late. One theory suggests that Zena may have barked or reacted strongly to something inside the house. If Hackman was in the late stages of Alzheimer's, could he have understood the warning signals from his dog? Could Betsy have heard them but been unable to act in time? One notable detail is that Zena was the only dog locked in the crate. If Betsy or Hackman felt something was wrong, why would they lock Zena up instead of letting it roam freely like the other two dogs? Could Zena have reacted to something that its owners didn't understand, and they decided to confine it to avoid trouble? The behavior of Bear and Nikita continues to raise questions. These two dogs showed signs of anxiety and kept their distance from the house. Their actions suggest they sensed a danger and instinctively avoided it. This has been confirmed by animal behavior experts, who point out that dogs can perceive things humans cannot, such as the presence of toxins, gas, or even the emotions of their owners. But why didn't Bear and Nikita go into the house to help their owners? One possibility is that these two dogs, sensing a great danger they couldn't handle, chose to stay away. Another theory is that Bear and Nikita tried to intervene in their own way, by barking, staying near the house, and showing signs of anxiety. But they didn't go inside because they knew something about the situation that humans couldn't understand. They could have been reacting to a danger from an environmental factor or an unseen stranger that humans were unaware of. Zena's unusual health is also a point of suspicion. She appeared to be completely healthy before her death, with no signs of conflict or poisoning. Zena's tissue showed signs of pneumonia, which could be related to an infection, but there were no traces of toxins or chemicals in her body. The fact that Zena was locked in the crate might have been an attempt to isolate her when she started exhibiting troubling behaviors that Hackman and Betsy couldn't understand, adding to the mystery of whether Zena was trying to warn them about a greater danger. As the investigation team continued to analyze the behavior of Bear and Nikita, along with the findings from Zena's autopsy, the FBI believed the key to unraveling the case lay in the dog's instinctive reactions. Zena, as the most important silent witness, may have sensed something that no one else could perceive. Bear and Nikita's actions further reinforced the belief that they knew something was terribly wrong, but couldn't intervene beyond their anxious behaviors. This suggests that the cause of the tragedy could be an invisible factor, whether it's a toxic environment or an intruder that went undetected that humans couldn't perceive, but the dogs did. Their instinctive actions provided crucial clues in solving the case. With the final official report from the FBI in hand, the case surrounding the deaths of Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa, along with the fate of Zena, remains unsolved. However, the FBI's ultimate conclusion is that the dogs knew more than they could communicate. The last hope of the FBI lies in deciphering the dogs' behavior, as their instincts may be the crucial clue to uncovering the truth, no matter how terrifying that truth may be. The brown envelope lay on the desk in the FBI team's office. Inside was the official report on the case. Everyone in the room held their breath, waiting for the words within to reveal the final answer. Outside the window, the sunset bathed the Santa Fe landscape in golden light. In the backyard of the local animal rescue center, Bear and Nikita silently gazed into the distance, their eyes somber, as if they were still waiting for their owners to return. Zena was gone, but perhaps it was the most important witness, the final key to unraveling the mystery surrounding Gene Hackman's house. After weeks of investigation, the FBI finally had the most crucial data in hand. Zena was not poisoned or infected with any contagious diseases, and the forensic tests found no signs of toxic gases or chemicals that could have caused the deaths of Hackman and Betsy. Zena was in perfect health before it passed away, so what made it the only dog locked in the cage? The unusual behavior signs from Bear and Nikita in the final days were also worth noting. Bear and Nikita displayed signs of anxiety and restlessness, especially the night before the incident, when they refused to return to the house. This suggested that they had sensed something that humans could not. One of the hypotheses the FBI considered was that Hackman's Alzheimer's condition may have led him to unknowingly lock Zena in the cage without realizing it. If Zena had tried to alert or react to an unusual situation in the house, Hackman may not have been able to recognize those signals. While these details don't provide a completely clear explanation, they confirm one thing. Bear, Nikita, and Zena knew something was wrong before the humans did. The dogs tried to warn, but who was listening? One question still remains unanswered. Did Bear, Nikita, and Zena notice something unusual before the tragedy occurred? Could Bear and Nikita have sensed danger in the air, causing them to refuse to return to the house? Animal behavior experts believe this is entirely possible. Dogs have an incredibly sensitive awareness. They can detect illness, fear, and even death before humans do. If these dogs behave differently, it's because they sensed something. If Bear and Nikita could speak, they might tell a very different story, but all that remains are the footprints in the ground, the silent signs of an unresolved mystery. The dogs couldn't communicate with humans in the usual way, but their actions spoke volumes, things we may never fully understand. After the deaths of Gene Hackman and Betsy, Bear and Nikita faced a painful reality. They had lost their beloved owners. The police and local animal welfare organizations stepped in to find them a new home, and soon, good news came. A close friend of Hackman agreed to adopt Bear and Nikita. They would not be separated and would have the chance to live a peaceful life after the recent tragedy. But no matter where they went, they would carry with them the memories of that fateful night, memories of things that humans could never fully understand. The story comes to an end, but the haunting question remains. Fans of Gene Hackman around the world continue to wait for a clearer explanation, but perhaps there will never be a true answer. The truth may not lie in the FBI's reports, in the forensic investigations, or in the speculations of experts. The truth may exist only in the sad eyes of Bear and Nikita. Zena tried to signal, Bear and Nikita refused to return to the house, and Hackman and Betsy could not recognize those warning signs. A mystery that may never be fully solved, but one thing is certain. Bear, Nikita, and Zena are the silent witnesses to an unfinished tragedy. When humans are deceived, the traces remain. The FBI may be left a step behind, but the instinct of a loyal dog is never wrong. Bear cannot speak, but it saw, sensed, and helped unravel a mystery that shocked the world. Sometimes the most important witnesses are not human. This story will definitely change the way you view the relationship between humans and animals in investigative work. Gene Hackman's dogs were not just loyal companions, but also indispensable partners in solving the case. Thank you for watching the video. If you found the story interesting, don't forget to share it and leave your thoughts in the comments.